Oh, hello. It's night court time. Yay.
Night
I feel
court.
like all day's been night court.
Wait.
All day's been night court. All of it.
There's my night court. My night court.
You got the neon going.
Too bright. It's still too bright. I got to figure that out. Yes, I have felt like all day is night court.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about night things. And by we, I mean they talked about it on the stream as I hid in my sweater fort.
I did see that. I'm glad you had a sweater fort, though. So that was good.
I had to pause, and I didn't even pause. I just left them on their own. I was like, you know what? Y'all are on your own. I'm abandoning ship. And I had to go, speaking of sweater fort, I had to go get one. I've been sitting right here. Like my air vent is right behind me, and I have to leave the air on or else it gets, it's Florida summers. It gets really hot in here really fast, but it gets really cold sitting by the vent. So I had it, and I was actually really glad because I had to hide multiple times. Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. Well,
It was
I mean, what are you going to do? That's why I always keep a burrito blanket right here. See?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. My dog picks the one time that I start barking. I'm gonna actually bring him in here so that he does not wake the children up.
Oh, I have my burrito blanket, but it is on my bed because it's actually really, really soft. For those of you who were in day court today, if you missed day court, we had quite a day. I did not know that the term used for a toy used in the bedroom could be mentioned so many times during the course of closing arguments. That was a little bit, it was just.
You mean a dodo?
Don't talk about it.
I just said the bird. I didn't even say what it was.
Everybody's been sending me eggplant emojis and all kinds of stuff, like laughing at me.
What's really funny is that by covering yourself up, you open yourself up to all the emojis.
Look, I'm already getting look how red I'm already getting just by talking about it. Like, these are not things that we do. These are not things that we talk about in public.
Here's the important part to remember. If you make a big deal about something, you might get one in the mail. So.
But hey, you know what's funny about that though? What did I tell you? The reason I will never open a package on air is because I have a fear that it's going to be something like that. And I am not emotionally equipped to handle that type of thing because it's just not something that I've ever felt comfortable talking about, publicly.
No.
I was just.
Well, and you shouldn't have to. I mean,
yeah.
But it's funny because just on Monday, I was talking about how I open up things that I get in the mail outside of my house, but it's mostly because of I don't know what's in there.
Yeah.
So I go the extra 100 feet, which is my bad. It's my own thing. So.
Oh hell, I opened mine in the parking lot at the post office. So, not super comfortable. Not super comfortable at all. But it is what it is. We made it through it. Okay, so what happened with RA's stream today? Because I heard this multiple times that he had some spicy stuff going on. That he had some.
I heard there was writings and S&M and a lot of things that were bleeped, and it was very night courty. Apparently, is what I heard.
Dang. Like this has been like the humpiest hump day that I think I've seen on any court, on any stream day that I've seen in a while. So, you know, it's at least it wasn't just
I mean,
me.
I couldn't get through Jodi's, phone call, but also I hate Jodi, so
Yeah.
there's only so much I'm willing to do.
Too funny.
I believe in full coverage of a trial. However, if somebody's not willing to be fully covered, I might not do it. So here we are. I did want to say real quick. I got this a day or two ago, or I got this on Monday, but I totally forgot to bring it upstairs. But Lindsay, I'm not sure which Lindsay, and I really don't want to give her last name because it's on there. But she sent me. These are so cool. But they look like bracelets.
Yes.
I think they're bracelets. They are bookmarks. Did you get them too?
Yep.
Yeah, they're so nifty. One says grabs popcorn, which I love.
Yes, and then my other one, I have them down here with some of my other stuff. Like I have like, I wish you could see. I need to like rearrange my little table because I tried to get it to where you could see both of my like shelves or whatever, but you can't see this one. So I need to rearrange some stuff so you can see, because I've got like more gnomes and stuff down there, and then I've got, it's me with headphones. It's me.
What? That's so cool.
Cool.
I love that.
I love these. So
yes,
cool.
I pulled this out and I was like, oh, grabs popcorn. No, popcorn's the official snack of Night Court.
So cool.
Yes, I love these so much. I do, and I'm wearing the bracelets that I got that I showed on Monday, and my wife's wearing one too. And I'd give it to my kids, but they'd break one of them, and so I don't really want to go that route. Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh yeah. Where is that? Somebody said something that made me chuckle, and I wanted to see it real fast here. Where? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, JT, you didn't wait for Travis to finish. I didn't want to. Not. Nope. It is hump day. Yep. Hump day. Not late. Right on time. So, well, I think we heard a little bit about today. And but something else happened today while you guys were streaming.
Yes.
And that was basically the motion hearing it's like the pre-sentence motion hearing is what it was.
Yeah.
And so,
and it was a big deal.
So
I mean, this is, this makes me well, I won't say it because if we're gonna watch it, but
yeah. We get nice close-ups of Mr. John Thomas and Mr. Archibald for this, just because it was basically a Zoom call, which is fascinating to see, to be honest with you, because all we got was that choppy picture during the verdict. Before we go there, I want to do what we typically do, which is the top 3. Watson's got himself a pro. Virginia Middle. Enjoy that rock. Jennifer, I hope you pick it up. Oh goodness gracious. So yeah, I thought maybe we would watch that.
Yes.
I think if you haven't seen it, hopefully you would be interested in seeing it. I think it's interesting. It's gonna make you angry for a little bit, but then less angry at the end, I think.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it yet, so I'm excited to watch it. Because Oh, Valo.
I want to make sure I'm not covering up faces, so that's what I'm doing right now. There we go. That's probably all right. That'll do it. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Mr. Archibald's fine. He'll survive. All right, let's watch this. And oh boy,
we are, as I mentioned, live streaming this and also keeping a record through the court reporter that's present. Court's received and reviewed the motion.
17 minutes.
Let me just inquire first of counsel.
How
Mr.
long?
Archibald, are you ready to proceed and offer argument in support of the motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and who will be arguing on behalf of the state? Is that you, Ms. Blake?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Blake, are you ready to proceed as well?
Yes.
Okay. The court would note that the sentencing is scheduled for Monday in this case, and ahead of sentencing, the court's received requests through certain people to offer victim impact statements as permitted by Idaho Code Section 1953-06, the Victims' Rights Statute, as well as the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 22. There's been a request to have a hearing to discuss whether or not some particular people would qualify under those provisions. And so, Mr. Archibald, I've reviewed your motion. If you'd like to argue in support of the motion at this time, you can do so.
Thank you, Your Honor. As the motion indicates, a person by the name of Vicky Hoban, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but she has petitioned the court to be considered a victim as she is Tammy Daybell's aunt. I think the court initially denied that, not knowing who she was, and then reconsidered and granted it. I think the court granted it partly because we didn't know who on behalf of Tammy Daybell would speak. Now that the pre-sentence report has been received, we find that Tammy Daybell's sister, Samantha Gwilliam, has submitted a statement, and Tammy Daybell's father, Ron Douglas, has submitted a statement. In Ron Douglas's statement, he specifically says that he's writing on behalf of myself and my now deceased wife. So Tammy Daybell's mother passed away after Tammy did. And so Vicky Hoban wants to take the place of Tammy's mother by claiming to be a victim and wanting to be heard by the court as a victim. I don't think the law allows that. I think the law specifically excludes aunt. And so if Tammy Daybell had no one speaking on her family's behalf, I think the court's current order would be appropriate. But now that Tammy Daybell's sister and father have now spoken, and Tammy Daybell's father specifically stating, I'm writing on behalf of myself and my now deceased wife, I think that there's no provision for the court to consider an aunt as a victim able to speak on behalf of the Tammy Daybell family. So I know she's interested in the case. I don't know her personally. I don't have anything against her. I'm merely asserting the law, and the law, I believe, does not allow this. So I'd ask the court to reconsider or amend its order prohibiting the victim impact statement from Vicky Hoban. I see that after I filed this motion, we actually received her statement, though it is now submitted to the court and would need to be stricken. I don't have anything else.
All right, thank you, Mr. Archibald. Ms. Blake, what's the response from the state on the motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. The state does recognize that anytime we're dealing with victims' rights, Oftentimes there are some unique issues that come up because we have a statute, we have the Constitution, but they're ever evolving and being interpreted by the higher courts. We also recognize this court has turned to a Idaho court decision to assist in making a determination as to who should be considered victims with regard to a homicide. I think some of this has been a matter of first impression for the court.
I love her.
There are several victims that had wanted to make a victim impact statement, and I think the court went through an analysis in determining who would be able to and who wouldn't be able to. So the state recognizes that there are some individuals that would consider themselves victims that have not been allowed to make a statement. I think there are a lot of interested parties in this case, a lot of individuals that have suffered some form of harm in whatever form that may be from the acts that occurred in this case. With regard to this particular motion, I think the state is really without a legal basis to make any kind of an objection or argument one way or the other. So on this issue, we will simply leave it to the court's discretion while we recognize that this is a somewhat a matter of first impression to at least some degree. We'll leave it to the court's discretion for that determination.
All right, so to clarify, Ms. Blake, you're not stipulating to me granting the motion, is that correct? You're just arguing that you don't believe you have grounds to object to it, or I guess I do want to further kind of pin you down on the state's position here, whether it's a stipulation that the motion should be granted or just simply leaving to the court's discretion. Let me sort it out.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would not be stipulating. I think we're in that unique situation where the state does not technically represent the victims in the case any more so than as part of the general public for our representation. So we're always in a little bit of a precarious situation when it does come to victims' rights and what positions the state can take, what arguments we can make. But as far as the motion brought by Mr. Archibald, I don't think there's a legal basis for the state to make any kind of an objection. So we're not stipulating to it. We're simply leaving it in the court's discretion.
All right, I appreciate your argument then. Mr. Archibald, would you like to offer any rebuttal argument?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Got
I've
nothing.
been researching the issue, obviously, for some time in this case since it came up. The court, as it notes, is constrained in some ways through the Idaho case law, as well as the Article 1, Section 22 of the Idaho Constitution and the Victims' Rights Statute under Idaho Code 5306. And in this case, the court received a request initially, I believe coming through, not necessarily from the state, but through the prosecutor's office of a individual indicating they wish to make an impact statement, Vicky Hoban, and the court went through an analysis and entered an order allowing for her to give a statement. The court initially was under the impression that there were not going to be any statements made on behalf of the deceased victim in this case, Tamara Daybell. And at this point, there are apparently family members that qualify, including her sister, Samantha Williams, and her father, Ron Douglas, who will make statements. So then the question becomes whether or not that changes the rationale or whether the court would permit or allow Vicky Hoban to make an impact statement. As an initial point, I would indicate that by making these rulings and determinations, the court has never tried to minimize or not understand how far-reaching the impact can be in a murder case for family members, friends, associates, others that knew victims of this particular crime. Idaho does, however, have limitations on who's permitted the rights under the Victim Rights Statute and the Constitution, because they essentially get some privileges that wouldn't otherwise be afforded to normal people without those privileges, such as being able to make a statement without being required to be placed under oath or cross-examined on the statement. The court would note there's a policy behind allowing victims to be heard. One case that the court considered is a case called State versus Leon, 142 Idaho 705. And the issue is a little bit different there, talking about whether or not a DVD or video presentation was permissible as part of a victim impact statement. And really the focus in that case was on what it means to be heard. Under Idaho Code 195306E, the court, the victim statute does indicate the term heard, that a victim has a right to be heard. So I'll note that this is just by analogy, but some of the language in that talks about, in that case, the discretion, the victim's right to be heard conforms with the discretion traditionally afforded a trial court to consider a wide range of information at sentencing. Says it's fundamental that a sentencing court may properly conduct an inquiry broad in scope, largely unlimited, either as to the kind of information it may consider or the source from which it may come. And that cites a case, Payne versus Tennessee, and also Matson 123 Idaho 625. This is the State Leon case. Further goes on to state the sentencing judge is presumably able to ascertain the relevancy and reliability of the broad range of information and material which may be presented to it during the sentencing process, and to disregard the irrelevant and unreliable. And the information conveyed by a victim exercising his or her right to be heard serves this purpose by relating the victim's personal characteristics and the impact of the murder on the victim's family. And that cites again to the State versus Payne case. And finally, victim impact information gives the court knowledge that is helpful for determining the proper punishment and prevents relegation of the victim to the status of a, quote, baseless stranger. So there's certainly a policy that applies towards letting those that would be designated as victims to make impact statements. The technical issue here is who qualifies and who is allowed to be a victim pursuant to the statute in this case. Under Idaho Code 195306E3, that indicates that the court may designate a representative from the immediate family to exercise these rights on behalf of a deceased, incapacitated, or minor victim. In this case, the court has already made a ruling that Vicky Hoban is not technically a victim. What she would be pursuant to the court's order was a designated representative under Idaho Code 195306E, and the designated representative of Tammy Daybell's now deceased mother. When I look at the language of the statute and the case law, what I don't find is any limiting language stating that this designation of a representative can only apply if there's an absence of anyone else to make a statement. There's nothing in the statute that indicates that a designated representative has to only be appointed under certain circumstances, such as the unavailability of anyone else to make a statement. And what it does indicate is that there can only be one designated representative for an immediate family, because it is in the singular that the court may designate a representative from the immediate family. But there's no mutually exclusive language in any case law I've seen stating that once there is an immediate family member, then designation of a representative is not permitted. And so when I consider the broad-ranging policies of allowing victims to make statements here, and I'll note that some of the Idaho case law is more stringent, I think, in a capital case where the jurors make the ultimate determination. I do believe the case law supports that a trial court judge has some broader discretion in considering relevant and pertinent information for sentencing. such as was stated in that State versus Leon case. So without finding any case law or statutory language that makes the appointment of a designated representative mutually exclusive, and I do think this is probably a case of first impression in Idaho, I am going to deny the motion and allow that Vicky Hoban's statement may be considered as a victim impact statement. Not that she's the victim, but she is the designated appointed representative of Tammy Daybell's mother, who is now deceased. And so in the absence of any other authority that's been cited to the court or any statutory language, I don't believe it's error to permit that statement to be made. I will, however, leave it up to the discretion, of course, of the prosecution as to whether or not you think she should make any further comment or statement at the sentencing hearing, or whether the court would consider the addendum to the PSI, which was submitted as a written statement, which I do consider to be permissible given this analysis. So the ruling is I am going to deny the motion and will permit her as a designated representative to provide a statement in support of sentencing. That'll be the ruling then on the motion. Unless there's any questions from council, I think that will conclude the matters we needed to argue this morning. Mr. Archibald, anything further from the defense then this morning?
No.
All right, does the state have anything further to bring up, Ms. Blake?
Your Honor, maybe just for clarification, the court had indicated something would be up to the state with regard to additional statements.
Yeah, in other words, I don't know if she's going to make an in-person statement during sentencing or not. And that's just up to the state to advise her based on my ruling as to whether or not, I don't even know if she intends to do that.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And I don't know, we can get an answer for the court of what her intention is.
All right, counsel, one last thing while we're on the line then here, we do have sentencing scheduled for Monday. I'm anticipating and have planned that we'll get that done in a day. Is it looking from your estimation of what's going to occur, like you think we'll be able to conclude that in a one-day hearing? Let me start with maybe you, Mr. Wood.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe we'll be able to be one day.
All right. Mr. Archibald or Mr. Thomas, do you think we're able to get sentencing concluded in a day?
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate your input on that. We don't need to necessarily stop at the end of normal business hours if it's going to take longer.
All right.
Sit down, John Thomas. Sit down.
Sit
Ugh.
down. Yeah, so God, the beginning was when I was watching this, listening to it really, in not at work, of course not. I think I initially was pissed at Archibald claiming to be a victim. I don't think he meant it as such. I think what he meant it was in terms of the law. I don't think he was going that route. As much as I want to be angry at him, I don't think so. I did not like how he threw kind of just under the radar. I know she's interested in this case, which why say that?
Yeah. The way he said it, it made it sound like, oh, she's just a fangirl, you know, she's like interested in it. Like he makes it sound like instead of saying like she has a vested interest in, you know, this case and the outcome of it, he makes it sound like she's interested in it. Yeah. So she wants to come, you know. Ugh.
Right. And like the whole point of this was I'm sure at some point some law is going to be changed, actually probably because of this ruling, or at least one of them if it happens again. But like, you know, the aunt submitted her victim statement, and you know, she was going to be the rep for the family, and then Tammy's dad and oh shoot, who I have my notes here, but it doesn't mean that I wrote down the right stuff. Tammy had two family members, I think dad and brother. Lord. Anyways, because they are now going to give statements, the question was, does that mean that the aunt can't anymore as a representative? And what the judge basically said was, just because the family is doing it doesn't mean that doesn't mean you can't have a representative. The law only states that you can only have one representative. It doesn't say one way or another. So luckily that's how he read it. And so denied motion. And the sentencing will be on Monday. It will be done in a day, apparently, per the judge. And I don't have a time. So there we are.
I would have to look. I don't know that I have the time either. My plan, which, I mean, look how well all my plans go. My plan is to stream it during the day, kind of in between whatever else we're doing. I've kind of got to play it by ear because we got a verdict today for phase 1 of the shit show. So now we're going into phase 2. But I don't know how long it's going to take. Right now, they have the docket cleared for this week. So we might have, 2 days of testimony. We might have 1 day testimony, be verdict watch tomorrow. So we'll play it by ear. But the plan is to stream at least, if not the victim impact stuff, at least the sentencing live, because I know that everybody's going to want to see it live. And then I figure in night court, we can do the victim impact statements, watch the sentencing again for those people who didn't get to, and kind of go about it that way. So we'll have to kind of play it by ear based on what we have going on Monday, but that's the
That
show
sounds
right
good.
now.
That works out. I like it.
The shit show. Mind your business.
I just love the fact that John Thomas had to sit there like looking all what he was. And couldn't
I love
say
the
just
fact
anything.
that Lori Vallow sat there and was about as useful as Raven. Like she literally could have skipped the entire
Right?
thing and just somebody could have wrote what happened on a post-it note for her. That's but whatever.
It was very evident that the camera is right in front of her, but the TV that's encased in like glass is like above the camera. And so the entire time she just looked really pensive, but it was just manufactured pensive. So
yeah, she's staring at herself. She's ridiculous.
probably.
I cannot wait for sentencing. I hope she cries. I have zero sympathy or respect for her after what she did to those babies. And she may not have been the one that did it, but she is their mama, and she not only let it happen, she encouraged it to happen. Not a sympathetic bone in my body. So anyway, Bella says, are you going, Brandi, are you going to cover Melly Friday? Yeah, because it's supposed to be a short hearing. So we'll find out what's happening. I've already got like just anxiety taking over my body, even thinking about it. But yeah, I'm gonna cover it so we can find out what's going on. But I will say this: if I cover that trial again, it will likely be members only to so that we can have, members who want to be there instead of members who are coming in to be mean to our members. So
yeah, I
it's
think
just
that trial
me.
might call for it. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the trial might call for it. It was stressful for you all. It was stressful for our mods. And as much as you and I talk about not, putting up paywalls and stuff, if we do a regular trial and this is one we cover behind a paywall, at least we're doing a regular trial too. So,
I don't know how else to protect our mods and our members and our community because, that one, it just got rough. There were so many people coming in just to be rude. It's just me. Been a bad day. Missed most of day court. Thank y'all for distracting me and making me smile through it. Oh, we love you. We're sorry it was a bad day, but we're glad you're here.
I will say this: tonight's a good night to tune in. I've decided to add a segment to the show. That's called Night Court Chat GPT Mad Libs. And so what I've done is for you all, and I'll briefly explain it right before I do it again later on in the show. But what I've done is I picked a random person off of our Discord server, those that indicated interest. I didn't just want to connect with everybody or anybody without them saying yes, please. But they put an emoji up on a post. I gave them a number. I ran something 10 times, whatever number came up the most, that person I contacted, and I gave them 5 or 6 different words that I was looking for. I put them into a statement and told Chat GPT to write me an essay, or no, a story. And so we've got ourselves a story tonight.
Oh, dang.
That is provided by Alyssa Rose, and I will tell you the title, and I will leave it at that because you need to stick around because I'll probably do it around 10:45 or 11, I think. But the title of the story, I didn't title this, ChatGPT did, but it's called Unicycle of Love. I'm so excited. And I've got my best wig for my dramatic reading. It's already here on the side. But this is something that I want to do every single night court. I think it's a nice break. It's a nice palate cleanser, and you all get to be involved. And so that's kind of something that just happened.
That's
Why
hilarious. It's funny. Actually, when I was cleaning some stuff out the other day, by cleaning stuff out, I mean shoving more stuff in my cabinet, and then stuff fell because I'd overshoved it. That's what I mean by cleaning stuff out. But I have this big thing of wigs that came crashing down on me from like different Halloween things and stuff like that. I have, and I had forgotten I even have them. But I have all kinds of stuff I didn't even realize. So.
Uh-oh.
I know. I might have to send you some and add to your wig wall.
Listen, I won't say no. I won't deny them. Those I'll open inside the house, right in front of Mrs. Blue's crime, so she can be like, "What is happening?" Honestly, at this point, I don't think she questions much. So,
yeah. Oh, she's awesome. She's I can't even imagine that. Like just hearing your kids laugh too when you walk in there with the wig. That one day when we got to hear them laughing, that was awesome.
Oh, they're
wig
cute.
Off. Yes, I have a wig off.
Most days. Indy Cindy, thank you so much. I appreciate. What's over your head? Did I say something like over my head or something? We need a JT and Brandi wig show. The wig show.
I have I mean, all of mine are like different brunette ones. I mean, I have like I have all kinds of I look terrible as a brunette, by the way. I look terrible as a brunette. But I have like the short, like Pulp Fiction, that black one or whatever, and I have all kinds of stuff. So it's no Letitia hair, but
there is nobody would put a wig together that was that hair. Like if they want to keep their business, they would never do that.
Yeah, thank goodness for that.
Right?
Thank goodness.
Oh man, I'll give you a wig flip later. Later though, later. I mean, I know I do anything for 35 cents, but later.
Oh my gosh, what was it in chat the other day? Day quarters. What was it that we were talking about? Oh, somebody offered me $100 to do something. What was it?
I feel like I saw that actually.
Maybe to do a unibrow or something.
Oh, it was $100 to put those tattoos on as a unibrow, wasn't it?
That might have been, or a mustache or a unibrow or something random. And it was going to be like it was verdict watch. So it was like, going to be a high rated one or whatever. So they said something about they'll send me $100, and somebody was like, JT would do it for 35 cents.
They're not wrong.
I was like, we don't want to talk about things JT will do for 35 cents.
They know that Night Court's the cheap show.
Yeah.
Hopefully not in production, but in just in me being me. Hold on, we got a Poppet alert.
Hello, Poppet.
If I miss one, I'll be very sad. If I ever miss a Poppet alert, but I'm sure everybody else will tell me at this point.
I have mine and they're working again, but I don't think you can hear mine unless I'm sharing my screen and my audio. So
Yeah.
Mine weren't working earlier, but they're working now. So be ready tomorrow, y'all.
Uh-oh.
Of course, JT has like 27 pages of them, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7, not pages. 7, like 7.
I've got 7 pages of these sound effects, and every single one I have a GIF on the button. Because you can apparently put GIFs on these buttons, so all my buttons move the screens. It's so cool.
You have 7 pages with moving GIFs, and I have 7 sounds with just the default whatever. It's like one says cash, one says friends. I mean, this is you.
I just went in. Like I went in. It's also like 4 weeks that I've had it out, so you know. Would I shave for $100? Yes, I probably would. However, then it would look like you have a 13-year-old doing night court. But would I do it? I am probably just that sad that I would. Yep. My beard is not my brand, so I don't mind.
Uh-oh. I see a bet coming on.
Jeez.
We'll get you to $100 and get you shaved. You know, the wigs would look nice with you all freshly shaved. So
Yeah,
just
that's
throwing
very
that out
true.
there.
It would. Somebody just asked. So somebody had where is it? Oh, sugar. Hold on. Where did I put it? Somebody asked for a more cowbell. I did this the other day, actually.
Oh yeah, well, I was talking about that decor today. I love the more cowbell.
Where is it? Oh, it's because I don't have a button. Okay, hold on. There we go.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
There it is.
I love that.
It's true. It's true. I don't like getting carded, so I don't usually do it. I will never.
That's a good
I would
idea.
have to bleach the heck out of it.
It would turn
That is a
orange
terrible idea.
more than likely.
It would. Yeah, it looks
And
pretty.
that, like, I think about like when the Kardashian chick, when she tried to dye her black hair, wasn't it her that tried to do it and it turned like orangey?
Yes, I believe so.
It'll be great. It'll be you'll have a fire beard. You'll have a beard of fire.
Do you know?
Beard fire.
There's
Better than loin fire.
The ultimate shade of it all.
Hold on. There's only one more that matches, and then I'll
Not
stop.
today, Satan. Not today. Not today.
Not today. Oh, dye my beard Badger? Or are you calling me Badger? There needs to be a comma in there if you're calling me Badger. Oh man.
Gosh.
Could I get the hold on. Wait. Could I get the cowbell? I did. Are you talking about can you like an actual cowbell? Because I probably can do that too. But if you mean the phrase, I do have it. I played it. Oh man. Oh. Doggone it, Dusty. I'm not gonna put that up, but that's funny.
I'll put it up. Woohoo! Night
damn.
court.
That's what
Look, if
happens.
I had to listen to the word that toy word
Dildo?
today 100 times, then we're gonna ask about your carpet and your drapes. So if I have to turn red, so do you.
I have blinds, so that's what you get.
It's the humpiest hump day ever.
I like from here on out. If any of you all ever do like something daring, just be like night court, and then do it. Whatever it is, live like it's night court. That's a
Live
merch
like
idea.
it's night court.
Da-ba-ba-da.
Yes.
Live
Oh,
like it
hilarious.
was night court.
Look, yeah, that's PG-13 compared to day court. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't feel so bad anymore about half the stuff we do here.
Then they were
Oh,
describing
man.
like, well, did they, and then they're like describing, like putting her mouth down south and like doing all these things. Like, I mean, the way that they're describing things, it's so inappropriate.
We need a list of Brandyisms. Mouth down south. They were describing her mouth down south.
That's the only way to say it. It was awful. It was
I
awful.
suppose.
Mm.
It sounds
I had to hear it.
terrible.
I had
It
to pray.
sounds, yes, what happens in night court stays on YouTube. So
Forever.
forever. Oh man. Anyways. Well, I guess we're gonna get back to the cross of Jodi. We might finish it tonight. But also I do have the whole Chat GPT Mad Libs that's coming up probably in an hour. So that'll be fun. So I hope everybody sticks around. Oh,
Yes.
man.
I am going to, I've been in this chair forever. So I'm going to get out of here because I am I have to
Tired?
move. I am so tired. I am so tired. So I am going to get off of here and I will be lurking until I pass out. And then I'll have to catch the rest on Rewatch Crew. Phase 2 of the Shit Show starts tomorrow. So I need to rest up and get mentally prepared and see how Lindsay Hendricks said that Mouth Down South sounds like a good name for a boat or a band.
Is it a motorboat? Is it a motorboat?
Oh God. Night court. Oh, I have one of those. I have one of, you can't hear it, but I have one of those. I have all these sound. I have all these 6 sound effects that I can't even share with you guys.
Here.
Diane,
This
I
will
feel
work.
like that needs to be celebrated.
It needs to be celebrated.
It needs to be celebrated. Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, man.
Alrighty, y'all. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Stick around, enjoy Night Court. I will be creepily lurking in the background, and I will see y'all for the start of phase 2 in the morning for day court.
Oh, it's not wrong.
That's true.
It's not wrong. That's the
yeah.
teacher in me. I like to keep people awake. This is what happens.
It's so funny too, because we've had so many people that are like they doze off and then the music at the end like makes them like fall off the bed and stuff. So it's funny. So
Yeah.
We like to torture y'all. All right, y'all. I love you all. I will see you in the morning. Good night.
Bye. Oh, I'm so glad she stuck around, or she came in to begin with, because I texted her before we started, and I was like, "Are you coming on? We're gonna talk about the Lori Vallow motion trial before the pre-sentencing and all the gobbledygook." And so, yeah, yes, I was very ready for today to chill with you all. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are some of my favorites. I'll say it now. If you guys end up heading out before the end, speaking of Fridays, we're not going to have a night court on Friday. I ended up having a event to mascot, and whereas I usually don't accept events on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, this happened to be a baseball game, and I haven't mascotted a baseball game in a very long time, and so I'm very excited about it. So I appreciate you in advance for your flexibility. If I can, and I will try to finish that presentation on Shayna Hubers for Sidebar, and I will try to pop it up on Friday. It doesn't normally come out on Friday, but since we're not having a night court, why not? They're kind of fun. They're nice. Nice one episode pieces. So we'll try and get that out on Friday when we typically go live for this. So yeah. I know I didn't ask permission. I didn't, but I do have a hall pass, so hopefully that'll get me through. All right, so let's get started with this this whole Jodi thing. And I'm gonna move myself back to where I need to be. I'm still laughing at Mouth Down South. Just as I hope you are too. Get that banner up there because that's true. And we're going to get continuing on with this cross. Oh, boy.
So, well, you think so means you don't know, right?
I don't know.
Well, this just happened.
Right away.
How is it that you are not remembering what you're saying?
Because you're making my brain scramble.
I'm again making your brain scramble. So,
okay, hold on. Weather Watch, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for saying hi. I'm glad you said have a great stream and not a great storm. Thank you so much. And I know you sent me a message. I think you also sent Brandi a message, and I think Brandi might have responded for both of us. Hopefully, if she didn't, I will respond to you. So thank you for the super chat, sir. I appreciate you. And we're going to keep going. Juan jumped right on into it. Actually, we jumped right on into this part. So here we go.
in this particular case, the problem is not you. It's the questions being posed by the prosecutor, right?
No, not
Yes
the
or no?
questions.
Yes or no?
I was saying no when you interrupted me.
So, no, so in this case, you're looking to point the finger at somebody else again, right?
No, it's my fault.
Well, you're saying it's the prosecutor that's asking you the questions, and that's creating a problem for you, right?
That's not what I said.
Well, you said it's the way you're posing the questions. You just said that, right?
I don't know.
You don't know what you just said, ma'am?
Objection, argument, Your Honor.
I don't know.
Didn't it just happen?
Yes.
So how is it that if it just happened, you can't even remember what you just said?
I think I'm more focused on your posture and your tone and your anger, so it's hard to process the question.
So the answer is, it's again the prosecutor's fault because you perceive him to be angry, right?
It's not your fault.
Well, is somebody asking you whose fault it is?
You did.
Well, you seem to be pointing it at the prosecutor, right? So you believe the reason that you can't be effective on the witness stand is because somebody is asking you questions in a way you don't like.
I think that was a compound question.
Man, isn't it true that you are having problems up on the witness stand, according to you, because of the way the prosecutor is asking the questions, right?
Yes.
And so according to you, the truth with regard to this issue depends on the style that's being used, right? That's what the truth knows.
Objection, argument, mischaracterizes her testimony.
You're saying that you are having trouble telling us, you're telling us the truth from the witness stand, right?
Absolutely.
You're telling us that you're having trouble telling us the truth because of the way the questions are being posed, right?
A little more bearable to watch
Her
this
testimony.
after we read the romance
I have
story
no
on
problem
Friday.
telling the truth.
Monday.
I'm not asking you if you have a problem telling the truth, but what you seem to be telling us now is that you have problems telling us the truth now because of the way the questions are being phrased, right?
That's not right.
So it's something else then that the prosecutor is doing that's bothering you, right?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, it's something else that the prosecutor is doing that's stopping you from telling us the truth, right?
I don't know how to answer that.
Why don't you know how to answer that? You're the one that brought it up. You're the one that pointed the finger at the prosecutor, right?
Objection, argument, badgering.
Ma'am, you're the one that complained about the way the questions were being posed by the prosecutor just now, didn't you?
Yes.
And you indicated that the prosecutor's posture was aggressive, right?
I didn't say aggressive.
You indicated posture though, right?
Yes.
And there was something with the prosecutor's posture that you have problems with, right?
I don't know.
Well, no, you're the one that's used the word posture, man. You're the one that said that you had problems with the posture. So is it the
It's not
posture?
the problem with your posture, it's that it creates a problem with me processing what you're saying because I'm focused more on your posture than the content of your question.
So you're saying that you need to take some more time between questions to answer them? Is that what you're saying?
Sometimes.
Well, no. Is that what's going to help your memory to take more time between the questions?
Sometimes.
What's your answer?
Sometimes.
Ma'am, with regard to this issue of posturing, do you remember back on
He's
July
doing it for the
15,
record.
2008, when Detective Flores interviewed you? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And he was sitting down, right?
Yes.
And his voice was very quiet, right?
Yes.
And when he was asking you these questions and his voice was very quiet, you still lied to him, didn't you?
Yes.
So it isn't have anything to do with the volume of the question then, does it? As to whether or not you'll tell the truth.
I'll always tell the truth.
Well, so you'll always tell the truth. So you told the truth to Detective Flores back then, right?
I mean here under oath.
No, you said I always will tell the truth, right?
I said I will always tell the truth.
Right. Did you
Your
tell the
Honor,
truth?
I
Isn't it true you
object.
did not tell the truth to Detective Flores?
That's true.
Okay? And he had posture or a demeanor where he was just sitting back, right?
He was leaning forward, but he was.
All right, he was sitting down, right?
Yes.
He wasn't standing, right?
Not for most of the interview. That's
No, he
right.
wasn't, was he? And the reason you're having problems now, is it because the prosecutor's standing?
It's my own internal mental problem, I think.
Well, if it's your own internal mental problem, that means that what you are telling us are inaccurate answers, right?
Objection.
No.
She said she had trouble recalling not telling the truth. This mischaracterizes
That's what she
testimony
said.
and this continued badgering.
Sustained as to the first objection, rephrase.
Here, are you having trouble because the prosecutor is standing?
Having trouble what?
What are we talking about here?
You're talking about the truth. I'm talking about memory.
Aren't we talking about answering the questions?
You keep saying truth. I'm referring to memory.
Aren't we though basically talking about you answering the questions?
Both regarding answering questions.
Right, isn't that what we're talking about?
You keep mentioning truth. I'm not having a problem telling the truth.
All right, but you are having problems answering my questions, right?
I don't have a problem answering your question if I remember the answer.
So, but you just told us that you're having problems answering the question
There's
because
no way
of the
Kirk was
prosecutor's
happy
posture.
about this.
Didn't you tell us that?
That's not the
Not
direct
one ounce of
reason,
him.
but that's a trigger.
Well, that's what you told us just now, right?
Something to that effect.
Right.
Go
And
find
so would you like it if I stood over here like your counsel was asking you the questions? Would that make you feel more
Objection,
comfortable?
Your Honor, improper comment on counsel.
Sustained, rephrase.
Would it make you feel more comfortable if I stood over here and used the lectern, ma'am?
Why don't we approach him before he does the same thing over and over again, Judge?
Mr. Nermi, are you asking to approach with an objection? You may approach.
Would you be more comfortable if I stood here?
No.
Would you be more comfortable if I stood back here?
Where you stand won't make a difference to my comfort.
So what you're saying is that you are hampered in your ability to answer the questions irrespective of where the prosecutor is, correct?
At times, yes.
Well,
Yeah,
that's not how you phrased it initially. You're saying that you are having problems answering the questions because of the prosecutor's posture, right?
In that moment, that was correct.
So it changes from moment to moment then.
Sometimes, yeah.
So in this case, it changes from moment to moment depending on what the prosecutor is doing, right?
It's not necessarily just dependent upon the prosecutor.
With regard to your conversation with Detective Flores back on July 16th of 2008, he was pretty much sitting down in a chair back then, wasn't he?
Yes.
And yet you lied to him then, right?
Yes.
So it really doesn't have to do anything with the posture or where the person is sitting in terms of whether or not you'll lie, right?
Again, objection, we're not. That mischaracterizes her testimony. She said over and over again, it deals with memory, not telling the truth.
Objection noted, overruled. You may answer the question.
that
What was
was
the question?
very convenient not
Mike,
being able to remember.
Could you
to
please
tell
read
the
it to
truth. Oh no, he's going back. Oh my God, do we get to hear him talk?
question.
Wait
So
for
it
it.
really doesn't have anything to do with the posture or where the person is sitting in terms of whether you'll lie.
Well,
I want to hear him on a podcast. He's got a good voice.
sometimes I lied to Travis based on his posture.
Objection, Judge, he's not responding to the question.
Wait, another question.
So you understand we're not talking about right now about your relationship with Mr. Alexander. You understand that,
I
correct?
understand we got very off track, yes.
Pardon?
I understand we got very off track, the subject of my
proud of
relationship.
I'm asking you whether or not you understand that this line of questioning right now is not about your relationship with Mr. Alexander. Do you understand that?
I answered yes.
And this is about your ability to answer questions in the courtroom, right?
Yes.
And what we're trying to determine is what
Somebody
is
so
it
unlikable.
that will allow
Right.
you to answer the questions from the witness stand from the prosecutor.
I thought you had said whether or not it's the truth. It's not about,
Ma'am,
which part are you talking about?
ma'am, Mike, could you please read her the question again?
And what you're trying to do is to determine also what it is that will allow you to answer the question from the witness stand from the prosecutor.
I don't understand that question.
Question's nonsensical.
Restate the question.
Ma'am, you understand that we want your answers, whatever they may be. You understand that, right?
Yes.
And you understand that we need as
done it for like
complete answers
35
as
years.
possible. You understand that, right?
No, that's not the impression I'm getting from you.
So so the question is, so to you, unless you're allowed to ramble on, then you're being restricted, right?
No, that's not correct.
Well, in this particular case, you're saying that the prosecutor is cutting you off, right?
In this particular case, is in this cross-examination, yes.
Like with teenagers.
And you're saying that you're not getting a chance to
Bruce Graham
answer the
aren't allowed.
questions fully, right?
That's right.
Well, let's do this. With regard to you and Mr. Alexander, one of the things that happened was that you and he broke up. You understand that back on June 29th of 2007. You understand that?
Yes.
The person that did the breaking up was you, right?
Yes.
And the reason that you broke up with him is because you snooped into his telephone, right?
Yes.
And you did not have his permission on the day that you did it to go into his telephone, right?
Not explicitly, no.
When you say not explicitly, it means that you did have his permission to go into the phone. You understand what you're saying, that right?
Yes, at one point I did.
I'm not asking at one point. I'm asking on the day that you did it. Did you have his permission, whether written or oral, to go into his telephone and look at his text messages?
He had told me to look in his phone.
Finish
That
So I
day
guess
before-
it's just a matter of interpretation.
Ma'am, that day before he went to sleep, did he tell you to look into, that it was okay to look into his telephone?
Not that day.
And so you took it upon yourself to look into that telephone, right?
Yes.
And that's when you saw these text messages, right?
Yes.
And then that upset you, right?
Yes.
And as a result of that, you made a decision that the relationship was over, right?
Not right that day.
At some point, you did make the decision that the relationship was over, right?
Yes.
But you were upset that he was having these conversations about bodily parts with these other individuals via text message, right?
Yes.
And you were so upset that you still decided to go on vacation with him, right?
That's not why.
Well, you still went on vacation with him even though you had this information, right?
Yes.
And you went to New York, correct?
We did go to New York, yes.
Pardon?
Yes, we did. Went to New York.
And then you drove, or you went to a PPL conference also, right?
No, it was a retreat.
And then you went to Huntington Beach, right?
That was the retreat I was referring to.
Okay, so you went to Huntington Beach after that, right?
Yes.
And you stayed with him, right?
Yes.
You engaged in sexual contact with him, right?
Yes.
Even though you were very upset
Unpaid legal,
with what you knew, right?
multi-level marketing.
Yes.
You chose to go on vacation rather than break up with him at that point, right?
Yes.
And so the way you see it, it's his fault that you broke up, not yours.
Objection, mischaracterizes testimony.
Overruled, to be answered.
His fault that I broke up with him?
Yes,
Their first meeting.
not your fault.
Well, it was my choice, so I don't know what you mean by fault.
Well, we're talking about who was to blame. That's what fault means, right?
For the breakup?
For the breakup, that's what we're talking about, right?
Broke up with two, although I can see why you care about
I guess
that.
we each had a part in it.
Well, no, you're saying that it was his fault because he was doing these things with other women, right?
His fault for the breakup because he was doing things?
The way you explained it to me, ma'am, the reason you broke up was because of something he did, right?
That's what motivated me to break up with him.
So what you did, the fact that you went behind his back and looked at his telephone had nothing to do with the breakup, right?
That was also one of the reasons.
So you believe that you were to blame for going behind his back, right?
Yes.
That was a dishonest thing to do, right?
Yes, I felt very bad about it.
Did I ask you whether you felt bad about it?
No.
You know, you say that you feel bad about it, but haven't you done similar stuff in the past?
Hello. Yes.
I mean, you did it to Bobby Juarez, right? You went
Yes.
behind his back and you got on the computer, right?
Yes.
You went behind Matt McCartney's back and you went and talked to Bianca, right?
I didn't go behind his back.
Oh, you told him that you were going to talk to Bianca before you went to talk to her?
I would have.
The answer is, ma'am, the question is, did you talk to him before you went to talk to Bianca?
No, he wasn't available.
Ma'am, did you talk to him before you went to talk to Bianca?
No, he wasn't available.
Sustained.
Ma'am, you said he wasn't available. Could you have waited until he was available to talk to him to see if it was okay to talk to Bianca? You could have.
Yeah, but it would have been miserable for several days.
Oh, so it's all about you then, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
The
You could have
ultimate
waited, right?
shade
But you didn't want
of
to.
it all.
I chose not to.
That's right, because you would have been miserable, right?
Yes,
And you didn't want to be miserable, right?
that's right.
And so this dishonesty that you said involved Mr. Alexander, you have at least on 2 previous occasions engaged in the same sort of dishonesty, right?
Yes.
And with regard to
I
Miss-
take that back. I don't think it was dishonest to go talk to Bianca. So I guess one time,
Ties
because
and
I do
shirts
believe
are
that the
always on
emails with
point.
Bobby was dishonest.
I love it.
All right, but you did engage in conduct with regard to Mr. McCartney that he did not know about before you did it, right?
With regard to his conduct that I didn't know about?
No, I'm asking, the fact that you went to see Bianca, isn't it true that Mr. McCartney did not know about it before you went to talk to her, right?
That's right.
So that was behind his back, wasn't it?
No, because that implies sneaking around.
That was because why?
To me, that implies sneaking around, and I wasn't doing that. I was just open and direct about it.
You weren't sneaking around, you just didn't tell him about it, right? That's the distinction that you're trying to draw here.
Only because he wasn't available.
But that's the distinction that you're drawing here, is that you were not sneaking around, right?
I wasn't sneaking around.
Overruled.
Right?
Yes, it was not dishonest.
With regard to Mr. Alexander, looking at his telephone or viewing his text messages wasn't the only time that you actually went to look at one of his communication mediums, right?
Yes.
In fact, you and he became an item in February of 2007, right?
Yes.
And you guys, that's when you made it official. You were still living in Palm Desert, right?
Yes.
And you were living in Palm Desert, but at some point you were able to look at his computer, right?
Yes.
And you looked at his computer at his house in Mesa, right?
Yes.
And you looked at his computer and you started to look at some of the items, what, in MySpace? Is that what it was?
Yes, his MySpace emails.
Pardon?
His MySpace emails?
But it was in MySpace, right?
Yes.
And you looked at some of the emails that were there, right?
Yes, I did.
And even though you didn't have permission to look at those emails, did you?
I don't know. It was kind of a trade-off because he did it to me, so.
I'm not asking if he did it to you, am I?
No.
I'm asking if you had permission
Snuck
to
that
go
in there,
into
didn't you?
his MySpace to look at his emails.
No, I guess I didn't.
And so again, this is this conduct, this dishonest conduct on your part, right?
Yes.
And you went and you looked at his emails and you saw some emails between him and at least two females, right?
She'll
Yes.
get beat up.
One of
terribly on the stand.
them involved
She'll get down and
the
tell her
New
defense
Year's
attorney.
Eve meeting,
Just a
right?
flesh wound.
Yes.
And
Like
that
triangle.
upset you though, right?
Not really.
Well, it didn't make you happy, right?
It didn't thrill me.
Pardon?
It didn't thrill me.
So if it didn't thrill you, that's a way of saying it didn't make you happy, right?
That was-
Words in her mouth.
that's right.
But that happened before you and he were actually officially dating, right?
Yes.
And so that really shouldn't have had any bearing on how you felt. Would you agree?
That wasn't the part that bothered me.
I understand that, okay, tell me what is the part that bothered you?
Because you really want to.
He lied about what it was about.
He lied to you what it was about after you confronted him, right?
No, he called me preemptively to explain.
Ma'am, you looked at his MySpace email, right?
Yes.
Then you and he had a conversation about it, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't that he had a conversation about it before you looked at his MySpace email, right?
About the messages? Yes, we did.
So he talked to you about them before?
Yes.
If he talked to you about them before, then why were you upset?
Because I found out that what he said was false
Oh, I see. So he lied to you then, right?
about the message.
And what you were doing is you were sort of checking up on him, right?
Yeah, I was.
And that's because you wanted to see whether or not he was cheating on you, right?
No, it wouldn't have been cheating in December because we weren't together yet. I wanted to see whether it was accurate, what he did.
Okay, so anything that he would tell you, you would want to check to make sure
Checking up on
that
what
he's
he
being truthful to you, right?
That's not right, not anything.
Well, things having to do with relationships involving other women, right?
Sometimes.
In this case, that's what you did, right?
This thing particularly, yes.
And this is the other one that involved the email that you were particularly offended by, right?
The other email?
Yes.
Yes.
And you were particularly offended because you said that the woman that was involved there was married, right?
Yes, she was married.
And what was the woman's name?
I don't want to destroy anyone's marriage.
So what was the woman's name?
Shannon Crabtree Peterson.
But
And
I'll
so
tell you her
you
full
believe she was
name.
married and you believe that they were doing something that they shouldn't have been doing, right?
She was married, and by LDS standards, what they were talking about was very inappropriate.
But all they were doing was talking, right?
They were joking about getting together for a sexual liaison.
They were joking about it, right?
I hope it was joking.
Well, didn't you just say that they were joking about
Right?
it?
I don't want to ruin a marriage, but it's this. And here's her social security number too.
As to whether or not they were joking.
Overall, that wasn't the question. You may answer the question.
Well, he was joking about his wet
Ma'am,
dream with her.
Objection, Judge.
And
I asked her whether, isn't it true that you said they were joking? Isn't
I
it
did
true?
say that, yes.
And so the reason you said that is because you believe it, right?
Because he told me later after I confronted him. At the time, I didn't know what to believe.
Ma'am, you believe it. That's why you said it, right?
When I sit here today, I believe it somewhat.
And so you believe that they were joking about it, right?
Her full name, her nickname Snoops. Her full name is Snoops Doggy Door.
At the time, I did not, but now I think, I mean, if what he told me can be believed, they were joking.
Ma'am, isn't it true that you just said that they were joking about it, right?
Yes.
And that's what you believe, right?
That's what I'd like to believe.
Well, you are testifying to the truth, right?
Yes.
And you said they were joking about it, right?
That's the third time you asked me that. The answer is yes.
And so if they were joking about it, what is the problem?
By LDS standards, you're
Either
not
way,
supposed to have conversations of that kind of nature with someone else's spouse.
Okay, and that's because you are familiar with the code of conduct involving sexuality in the Mormon Church, right?
I am now, yes.
Well, no, you were familiar with it back in February of 2007 when you looked at his MySpace account, right?
Not all of it, but regarding spouses and their behaviors and how to interact with people that are married, yes.
Ma'am, you were familiar enough with their code to pass judgment on what was going on, right?
Yes.
As it applies to the Mormon faith, right?
Yes.
And this is knowledge that you had gained as part of your learning about the Mormon Church, right?
Well, another Mormon had explained it to me, so yes.
So yes, you did learn it, right?
Yes.
And so you knew that joking about these things was not something that was viewed favorably by the Mormon Church, right?
That's right.
But you believe that just joking about something, you knew about that. You knew that that's not something that was favored by the Mormon Church, right?
That's right.
But in terms of whether or not sexual intercourse is concerned, you're telling us that at that point, you didn't know if it was acceptable or not in the Mormon Church.
I'm not saying that.
So at that time, you did know then that sexual intimacy, whatever form they may be, was unacceptable in the Mormon Church, right?
I'm not saying that either.
Well, ma'am, did you know back in February of 2007 when you were making these judgments that having oral intercourse was against the teachings of the Mormon faith?
At that time, no, I did not know.
So you believe that just kidding about things is against the Mormon religion, but not oral intercourse? Is that what you're saying?
With a spouse who's married in the temple, yes.
So you're saying then that you believe that oral intercourse was okay back in February of 2007, but not kidding between two people. That was not okay.
Yes, that's what I was taught.
What?
And don't they have brochures that they hand out?
Yo, Kirk's face. He's just like, all right, that's it. Where are we? Hold on.
Yes, that's what I was taught.
And
just the ultimate, just like, is this really happening right now? Why did she do this? What's the point? I just... You can't text about this, but you can do it. So listen, I don't need no 160 characters about Meltdown South, but the other is fine. The act. I don't know why I'm trying to make sense of this. There's no making sense of it, and that should be okay.
And don't they have brochures that they hand out?
Yes.
And these brochures include talking about sexual contact, right?
Yes.
You were here when Desiree Freeman testified, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that we know is that even laying or touching or laying on top of somebody with their clothes on, that's against the Mormon teachings, right?
That is right.
And in fact, that's something that you did with Brian Burns. You laid on top of him with your clothes on, right?
Yes, I did.
And that's against the Mormon teachings, right?
It is.
And you knew that at the time you did that, right?
I did not.
So you gained this knowledge after being with Ryan Burns, then, right?
After about a year after.
So this is something that you never thought to talk to anybody about how far you could go?
I did. I talked to Rachel.
Well, I'm asking whether or not, well, Rachel is not somebody that's the end all in the Mormon church, right?
I don't think anybody would be.
Well, the bishop is a little bit more informed, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And if you had any questions about it, right, you could go talk to the bishop, right?
I guess technically, but I wouldn't be comfortable.
Well, you're saying technically, but you wouldn't be comfortable. You could go talk to the bishop, right?
Yes.
In fact, you went to Bishop Layton to talk about Travis Alexander's killing, right?
No.
Well, you called him, right?
Yes.
So you had no problem doing that,
Come
right?
here to read.
That's right.
Did you ever have a desire on your own to go and find out what the Mormon church allowed in terms of sexual contact?
Yes.
Why didn't you do it?
I did.
Pardon?
I did.
So did you go to a bishop?
I went to Rachel.
When did you go see Rachel about this issue involving sexual contact?
It would have been August 2007 after Travis and I went all the way consensually and we were both awake.
So you went to see her in August of 2007. You converted or were baptized in November of 2006, right?
Yes.
And you and Mr. Alexander are engaged in sexual contact between that time, November of 2006, until what? April of 2000 or August of 2007? Is that what it is?
That whole time period.
And during that whole time period, it never occurred to you to try to find out what the Mormon church allowed?
I did try to find out.
Did you go to a bishop?
No, definitely not a bishop.
Did you try to read any of the literature that they have?
I'd read some literature, but not the pamphlet that you were reading from.
There is a pamphlet that they have, right?
Yes.
And this pamphlet is available to everybody, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you were here when I was looking at it and I was questioning Desiree Freeman, right?
Yes.
And this pamphlet is free, right?
Yes.
And it lays out the guidelines for what is acceptable sexual contact and not, right?
Yes.
And isn't it true that that pamphlet doesn't include anything about joking involving married people, does it?
I haven't read the whole pamphlet, but the part that I read does not include that.
Joke.
It does include things that you are not to engage in oral intercourse, right?
In Moses' back pocket.
Yes.
And any kind of intercourse, right?
Yes. It says all sexual relations.
Right? And in fact, it even talks about certain types of music that shouldn't be listened to, right?
I don't recall that part, but that sounds right.
Tulips.
And it also talks about what kind of videos or what kind of movies should be looked at, right?
Yes.
And you're saying that throughout this whole time, from November of 2006 to August of 2007, you did not have the opportunity to review any of this and know any of that.
Well, I didn't know it existed, so I guess then I wouldn't have had the opportunity. But if I'd known it was there, then I would have had the opportunity.
Did you think that perhaps it would have been a good idea to go ask if these materials were available?
No, I did not.
Rephrase.
You were conflicted by the fact that you saw Mr. Alexander joking with somebody who you believed to be married, right?
She was married, yes.
You were conflicted because Mr. Alexander was joking with somebody that was married, okay? Better?
Yes.
And although they had never had any sexual contact, right?
Objections. She doesn't know that or not.
Rephrase.
Even though you believe they had not had any sexual contact, right?
At that point, that was my belief.
Right. Yet, that's just people talking, yet you have no problems engaging in all this conduct that you've told us about during direct examination. You have no problem engaging in that conduct, yet you're judging somebody for just talking.
Objection, this is a testimony. She's never said she had no problem with it.
State your question.
Well, ma'am, you never sought counseling from a Mormon, whether it's a male or a female, about your sexual contact with Mr. Alexander, right?
I did, but not during that time period.
During the time period that we're talking about, you did not solicit aid from anybody in the Mormon church about what was the proper way to proceed, right?
That's right.
And the reason you didn't was because it was enjoyable, right?
No, because I didn't believe I was in the wrong.
Well, you weren't enjoying what was going on with Mr. Alexander?
I did, but that's not why I didn't seek counsel.
And in fact, the way you described it was that he's somebody that you could not stay away from sexually, right?
Yes.
And he described you as his kryptonite, right?
Yes.
And so it was a situation that you were mutually attracted, right?
Yes.
So is the reason that you were being so judgmental is because you were just plain jealous? Is that what was going on?
No, I was considering a future with him, and if he was acting that way towards someone else's wife, I wondered how he would treat me as a wife.
So if you were worried about how he was going to treat you as a wife, then why didn't you just leave him?
Because I wanted to give him an opportunity to explain first.
And you gave him the opportunity to explain, and it sounds like you believed him, right?
Yes.
And so as a result of you believing him, you decided to continue in this sexual relationship, right?
Yes.
I move for the admission of Exhibit 480.
The objection.
I'm sorry, what number?
480.
480, no objection.
480 is admitted.
Let's take a look at this.
I only have a few more questions. Where I want to go next is, was Travis, maybe we're talking about this, was Travis a flirt with women, with other people?
Yes, and he was not secretive about it. So that was something that I wasn't aware of that aspect right away when I first met him, which was in the MGM Grand. He was very cool, very calm. And even there were people that had made comments saying, why was he on such good behavior that night? And he said that he sort of, looking back on that, he said he kind of had an agenda. And because I came off as a calm person, he was sort of trying to mirror and match. But, by nature, he's very open, very outgoing, very flirtatious. Not that that's a bad thing at all.
And so even though you saw these messages on his phone, even though they were flirtatious, you still decided to break up with it, right?
Not for that reason.
Well, isn't that what you told us before the break, that that was the reason that you broke up with him, because of these text messages?
No, it's because he was sleeping with a bunch of people.
You believe that he was sleeping with a lot of people, right?
Yes.
Do you remember telling us before the break that it was this text message, or during direct examination, that it was the text messages that were the reason for the breakup?
Right.
You did say that though, right?
Yes.
I don't have, okay. You and Mr. Alexander went to Sedona and to the Grand Canyon with Desiree Freeman and Dan Freeman, correct?
Yes.
Take a look at Exhibit 481. See if you recognize the people there and the occasion.
Yes, I do. I don't see a date, but I recognize it.
But you're in that photograph, correct?
Yes.
Y'all,
And you
there's an
recognize the
interview
other
with
people,
Jodi
correct?
Yes.
And
in
it's
the
a trip
basement of
that
the
you
courthouse.
took. It was
20 minutes
pictures,
after the
photograph
verdict was
taken
read.
during the trip to Sedona, correct?
Correct.
You know we're gonna
When
watch
was
that.
it? When, generally speaking, when did you go to Sedona?
I believe it was April 2007.
And this is a true and accurate depiction of the four of you on this trip to Sedona, correct?
Correct.
I move for the admission of 481.
No objection.
481 is admitted.
This is a photograph that was taken in Sedona, correct?
Yes.
And it shows your height relative to Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
You're approximately the same height as he is, correct?
He's 3 inches taller.
Well, this shows it right here, correct?
Yes.
How tall you are, Kurt?
Foundation, you don't know where they're standing or shoes they're wearing?
Sustained.
Ma'am, this shows you on that particular day with Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
You have no reason to believe that you were standing on a rock and he wasn't, right?
Not that I recall, no.
And with regard to Mr. Freeman, do you have a reason to believe that he was standing on a rock?
No.
And with regard to Desiree Freeman, any reason to believe or to think that she was standing on a rock?
No.
That shows the relative
Doesn't rock
heights,
have
correct?
to do with
Yes.
anything. Jodi wishes she got ran.
Ma'am, one of the things that we know about Mr. Alexander was how his ambience was in a room, correct?
Yes.
Let me show you another exhibit.
I hope this is the right sound effect. I really do.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I don't know if that's the right one, but I
I'm
like
for the
it.
admission of exhibit 482.
It's understated.
The objection,
None that we haven't previously lodged, Judge.
482 is submitted.
Don't worry, we'll wait. Suggest a good thing. I might need to put that further up on the list too. Because this is how I feel about the earlier conversation.
Yes, and that's the other thing. When you asked me if I was angry or outraged, I'm more angry and outraged that his life was taken and that he had so much potential, that he had so many things and projects that he was working on that some will get completed and some will never get completed. He was a light, and he had so many. He brightened a room when he walked in. He literally brightened the room. Like you could just tell when Travis was, whether you were no matter what direction you were looking at, you could tell when Travis showed up, because the laughter got louder, and the conversation got happier, and just the whole energy of the room changed. And for someone like that, it almost seems like the world is a darker place now that he's not in it anymore. So I'm really angry about that. I can't imagine what his family is going through. I love my brother so much, and I know that he had a lot of siblings, and I just cannot imagine what it would be like to get a phone call to hear that something happened to one of my brothers.
According to that particular excerpt in your statement, he was a great guy, right?
Yes.
And he was a great guy, it appears, to everybody that seemed to come in contact with him, correct?
Yes, it appears.
And nowhere during this conversation that you may have had with people of 48 hours did you mention this issue of him masturbating to
Too much
pictures.
time on
definitely
my
not.
hands.
So the answer is no, you didn't, correct?
That's correct.
And it wasn't like he didn't do good things for you. He actually did a lot of, or some things that were very nice, didn't he?
Yes, wonderful things.
Just have you, or listen to you tell us about one of those occasions. I move for the admission of exhibit 483.
No objection.
483 is admitted.
I just personally, I can't see any motive for myself to ever want to do this.
Thanks,
inflict
Cap.
this kind of thing on Travis, someone who's been so generous, someone who's been so kind, and someone who has opened up his home, opened up his refrigerator on many times when I didn't have enough money to go to the grocery store and fill up my own fridge. You know, there were just so many things that he did, the little things. I came home from the airport once and he let me park my car in his garage so that it was safe while I was gone. And I showed up to get my car and there was this bag on the hood that said Cinnabon, and he knew that I liked Cinnabon. And I remember calling him before I flew out. I was flying out of Salt Lake, and in the Phoenix airport, there's a Cinnabon stand, and I always get one before I go on my flight. And I remember lamenting a little bit, saying Cinnabon's going to be closed when I get home because it's going to be late. And so he went out to the mall and got me Cinnabon so that I'd be able to have that when I got home. It's just little things that he did like that. Thoughtful things as well. He looked up a whole recipe online for Cinnabon and printed it out on pink paper and folded it up in there and put it in there with that. And he gave me a $10 gift card for Cinnabon. So it's like, just little things like those that's just one example of so many little things that he's always done for me, and not just for me, but for everyone that he knew.
I might not have
And
a
in
second
fact,
screen. But
after you
I might
moved,
punch it.
you actually thanked him for everything that he had done to you, right?
Yes.
Let's take a look at an exhibit. Take a look at exhibit number 484. Let's see if you're familiar with these text messages.
I would be a mess if I had these lies shoved in my face. She could not care less.
Yes, I recognize them.
And you were the person that sent them, correct?
Yes, this wasn't before I moved, this was after.
Right, and
This qualifier.
what date is indicated on there?
April 18th, 2008.
It is an odd
Where's the
plug.
admission of
It's a
exhibit
weird flag.
484?
Did you say no objection?
No objection.
Wait, wait a minute.
This was after you had moved, correct?
Yes,
This was after you were in Wairika, correct?
yes,
This was when you were in Wairika doing your day-to-day activities, whatever they may be, correct?
correct.
When you were not seeing Mr. Alexander on a daily basis, correct?
Yes,
This is after you had broken up with him, right?
yes,
This was during a time when, according to you, the fog had lifted, right?
yes,
And this is after the time, after you claim that there has been some physical violence, you wrote this, right?
that's right.
And we agree that the time is 7 hours ahead, correct?
Yes,
And so it's on April 18th that you write this, and you say, Travis, I thank you for being such an amazing friend. You are a rock, a light, and an inspiration. I love you dearly. You were still in love with him, weren't you?
I wouldn't say in love, but I loved him very much.
So when you say you love him dearly, that doesn't mean that you have any physical attraction to him. You just love him like a friend, correct?
That's not true.
Well, when you say you love him dearly, is that the same as saying that the way you love Matt McCartney, or is this a little bit different?
It's similar, but there was no longer a sexual attraction with Matt McCartney.
But there was this sexual attraction with Mr. Alexander, correct?
Correct.
And you indicate that you appreciate all of the ways you've gone out of your way for me, correct? You indicate that, right?
Yes,
And then you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, right?
yes,
This is not in line with with the person that you've been talking to us about, is it?
yeah, it is. It's very consistent with how he was.
Well, you've been telling us before that he was mean. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes, he was also that.
And you've been telling us that in addition to being mean, he was somebody who physically abused you, right?
Yes, he did.
And that he would raise his voice to you, right?
Yes, he did.
Yet, once you're free of him, and after the fog has lifted, you're thanking him and telling him what an inspiration he is, right?
Yes.
That sort of, the way that is presented, that doesn't seem to correspond, does it?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
You've given us two versions, correct?
Of what?
Of Mr. Alexander.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
I think I've given more than two versions.
Well, you've given us one where we've just discussed about him being physically abusive and mean and loud to you, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, during the trial, you even referenced that he used to grill you, right?
Yes.
And yet, the writings that we have here don't support that, specifically exhibit number 484. Now that you're away, doesn't support what you've been telling us, does it?
Objection, argumentative.
Rephrase.
This is at odds with what you're telling us before.
I thought he was going to say
as to
this
Mr. Alexander,
is an
right?
ex-parent.
At odds with what?
With Mr. Alexander's portrayal that you've wanted us to believe during direct examination.
No, I believe I said during direct examination that he did many wonderful things and that he had amazing sides to him.
But you don't ever mention in any of these text messages, for example, this one right here, all you can do is gush on him, over him and thank him, right?
Yes, he flourished on compliments.
Is that yes?
Oh,
I said yes.
When you say that he flourished on compliments, it appears that you're saying that you're only doing it in an insincere fashion because you want to shower them on him just because he wants them.
You sit on a
At
throne
times
of
they were a
lies.
little insincere and that they were somewhat exaggerated, but he was a wonderful person many times.
What you're saying here, though, is just this particular exhibit, number 484, when you're saying, or you're gushing, whatever the term you want to use on this, it just appears that, from what you tell us, that that's not true, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Rephrase.
Ma'am, when you say that you were sending these because Mr. Alexander liked them, that's what you said, right?
No, I said he flourished with compliments.
All right, use the word he flourished on compliments, right?
Yes.
And if he flourished on compliments, the way it sounds is that you were not sincere about the compliment.
Well, I believe he was amazing. He was a rock to me. He was a light and an inspiration at one time. I did love him dearly, I still do. And he did go out of his way for me, and I wanted to express my gratitude.
So with regard to this particular love, is that how you believe love should be shown like it was on the evening of June 4th of 2008?
Objection, argumentative, badgering.
Sustained.
Well, ma'am, here, what you've indicated that all of this is true. So is this one of the ones that was sincere or not?
I believe I was being sincere in this one.
So this one, you are telling the truth?
Yes.
As part of what happened after you killed Mr. Alexander, there was a memorial service, right?
Yes.
And you attended it, right?
Yes.
The memorial service was in Mesa, Arizona, correct?
Correct.
And what time of the day was it?
I don't remember.
Was it in the morning or the afternoon?
I don't remember. It was daytime. I have no memory of that part.
And many people attended, right?
Must be how he's asking her the
One of the
question.
people that attended was Mimi, correct?
Yes.
You actually went up to Mimi, correct?
Yes, I did.
So even though that you say that you're shy, you actually were the person that approached her, right?
Yes.
And you talked to
As a
her
friend of
about
mine would
Mr.
say,
Alexander, correct?
You're pretty.
Briefly, yes.
So that is a yes, correct?
Yes.
And it was during this conversation that you say that that's when you first learned that he was going to Cancun with her, right?
I can't remember because another woman had told me right before. She didn't say her name, but I assumed it was probably Mimi Hall. So I don't remember if Cancun was discussed.
Did you speak with Mimi Hall about her going to Cancun with Mr. Alexander?
I don't remember if Cancun was discussed.
But you could have discussed it, right?
Could have, but it was very short, and I don't think Cancun came up, but it might have. I don't remember that.
But it was at this memorial, whether it was from Ms. Hall or somebody else, that you, according to you, first learned about him going to Cancun with somebody else, right?
Yes, well, I assumed.
Is that yes?
I assumed. I didn't. I actually learned it from Detective Flores, but I assumed because of the way a woman named Brenda told me.
So what you're telling us is that at the memorial service, do you know the date that was?
I think it was June 15th.
At the memorial service, you did not learn that he went to Cancun with Mimi Hall.
Objection, definitely a compound question.
I don't remember. I think I assumed it, but I got like solid confirmation from Detective Flores.
So you assumed it at the time you met Ms. Hall then?
Trying to think. I think I might have spoken to Ms. Hall before Brenda. I don't remember when Brenda came up to me.
So what I'm asking though is, did you or did you not learn that Mr. Alexander was going to Cancun with Mimi Hall at this memorial service?
I don't know if I definitively knew it, but I was pretty sure that she was the one.
And why do you say that you were pretty sure? Is it because of a conversation that you had with Ms. Hall?
Because of a conversation I had with Brenda.
And based on the conversation with Brenda, you believe that that's when you learned about Mr. Alexander going to Cancun with Mimi Hall, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You and he had discussed him going to Cancun before, right?
Yes.
And you were not, he didn't ask you to go, right?
What was that?
He did not ask you to go, correct?
That's correct.
But you knew he was going with someone, didn't you?
Yes. Well, the trip allows for a second person on the ticket, so I assumed.
You knew he was going with somebody, right?
Yes.
And you knew he was going with somebody back on June 2nd of 2008, right?
Yes, I assumed it was a babysitter.
Well, I'm not asking you who you assumed it with. Did you know back on that date that he was going to go with somebody?
Yes.
And back on May 28th of 2008, you also knew that he was going to Cancun, right?
Yes.
And you knew that he was going to Cancun with somebody else, right?
Yes.
And this was about the time, because of the telephone call of May 10th, that he was still talking to you about sex, right?
Yes.
And even though he was talking to you about sex, he was actually, you knew, going to go to Cancun with somebody else, right?
Yes.
Let me show you an exhibit. And his going to Cancun with somebody else did not upset you, correct?
No.
And his going to Cancun and not inviting you did not upset you, right?
No.
Take a look at exhibit 485 and see if you recognize this.
Yes.
This is actually a writing by you, correct?
That's correct.
And it was submitted at the time of the memorial service, right?
Yes.
And how did it work? There was a page there that you signed? How did it work?
There was a photo album, sort of in a scrapbook, how I remember it, with a lot of blank paper around the different photos so that people could leave comments.
You actually brought the photograph that's attached to this, right?
I think it was already put together, but I emailed it to the person putting it together because that's one of my photos.
So this is one of your photographs though, correct?
Yes.
And how it got there, it maybe that you sent it to somebody and then they put it in the book, correct?
I believe so.
And then you actually signed it though, right?
I didn't sign it. I just wrote in it. I didn't want to leave my name.
In other words, this is your writing, correct?
Yes.
I move for the admission of exhibit 45.
No objection.
45 is admitted.
Perfect. Because now it's time. Time for what, you say? Well. Oh, I've got a video sting for that, everybody. And that's right, it's time for Night Court. Chat GPT Mad Libs. And I'm very excited because our first one, the words were chosen by Alyssa Rose. I said this in the beginning, but if you joined late, here's what we're doing once a night at Night Court. Oh, somebody asked for a hair flip. There you go. There it is. I am going to pick somebody at random on the days that we have Night Court, and I'm going to send them a message and give them like 5 to 8, if I'm feeling froggy, 10 types of words. And once they give those to me, I am going to put them together in a statement or a sentence, and I have them pick a genre as well. And I have Chat GPT AI put together a story for us. Now. Blip. Okay. So, again, this was by Alyssa Rose. The words, I am not going to tell you what the words are because I feel like that's giving it away. I am going to find myself some music. All right. So this is called Unicycle of Love. I'm not going to be watching the chat, so here we are. Juan Martinez and Sherry Stevens were two adventurous souls who decided to escape their busy lives and embark on a vacation to the charming shores of Wales. Their vacation was meant to be filled with fun, laughter, and imagination. And relaxation. On the first day of their vacation, they wasted no time and headed straight to the stunning Welsh beaches to enjoy the cool waters. As they swam and splashed around, Sherry couldn't help but notice Juan's playful nature and infectious laughter. Probably a lot like, their connection deepened with every shared laugh, and they knew this vacation was going to be something special. I know, they are embarrassing. I guess I am reading the chat. What is going on with this? I put it on so fast. Good grief, Bangs. Get your jam to... You know what? Cousin It rang. He wants his hair back. Is that better? There. It's a little better. All right. Their connection deepened with every shared laugh, and they knew this vacation was going to be something special. One sunny morning, they planned to hike to a breathtaking waterfall hidden deep within the Welsh hills. They set off, armed with a picnic basket and plenty of enthusiasm. Little did they know that their adventure would take an unexpected turn. As they hiked together, the weather began to change rapidly, and dark clouds gathered ominously. Suddenly, a rumble echoed through the hills, and an avalanche came cascading down towards them. Uh-oh, this wasn't in the vacation brochure, Sherry exclaimed, her eyes wide with surprise. We need to find shelter and fast! Ma'am, Juan shouted over the noise. Definitely added the ma'am. They searched frantically and spotted a small shed nearby. They rushed inside, hoping it would offer protection from the impending disaster, but to their dismay, the shed turned out to be empty, except for a dusty old unicycle standing against the wall. Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. A unicycle? Seriously? Sherry said, trying to stifle a giggle. Ron shrugs, trying to keep the mood light despite the danger. It's better than nothing. Let's give it a shot. With little choice and plenty of determination, Juan hopped on the unicycle, balancing precariously while Sherry held on to him for dear life. Chat GPT. A Chad ambitious, don't you think? Okay, this is officially the most ridiculous escape plan ever, Sherry said, trying to steady herself on the unicycle as they wobbled towards the exit. Hey, as long as it works, right? Juan replied with a grin. Focusing on steering the unicycle down the hillside, they rode the unicycle like a team of acrobats, wobbling and tumbling as they went, making their way through the narrow pathways to outrun the avalanche behind them. Despite the perilous situation, they found themselves laughing uncontrollably as they bounced along on the unicycle. Who knew a unicycle could be so versatile? Sherry shouted, her laughter echoing through the hills. As they reached the bottom of the hill, they looked back to see the avalanche safely behind them. They collapsed in a heap on the grass, gasping for breath and laughter still bubbling between them. Okay, I gotta admit, that was the most insane yet fun escape ever, Sherry said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. Juan grinned, a newfound admiration for Sherry filling his heart. You were amazing. I couldn't have done it without you hanging on. They lay there for a while, basking in the euphoria of surviving their unicycle escapade. From that moment on, their vacation was filled with laughter, camaraderie, and unforgettable memories. They explored quaint villages, danced to lively Welsh music in local pubs, and even learned a bit of Welsh language, all while cherishing the joy of being in each other's company. As the days passed, their bond grew stronger, and they found themselves falling in love with each other's quirks and humor. They became the life of every gathering, spreading laughter wherever they went. On their last evening in Wales, they sat on the beach, watching the sunset over the horizon, their fingers entwined. Sherry leaned her head on Juan's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her, feeling content and at peace. I'm still not done. I just have to pick a different song now. There we go. Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. This has been the best vacation of my life, Sherry said with a smile. Juan chuckled, pressing a soft kiss on her forehead. It truly has, and it's all because of you. Their romantic comedy vacation had turned into a love story filled with laughter and joy. As they headed back home, they knew they had found something extraordinary in each other, something that would keep them laughing and loving for a lifetime, and so they embarked on their next adventure together, hand in hand, on a unicycle of love and laughter. As Juan and Sherry returned from their vacation in Wales, they brought back not only cherished memories, but also a newfound depth to their relationship. Back in their daily lives, they continued to be inseparable, seeking adventure and laughter wherever they went. Their friends couldn't help but notice the change in them. Juan, once reserved, AI, you're very confused, had transformed into a jolly and spontaneous spirit, while Sherry, always cautious, had embraced a carefree attitude. Their love story was infectious, and their friends often remarked how they seemed to be living in their own romantic comedy. Their shared love for laughter and adventure led them to explore new hobbies together. They attended improv comedy classes, where they became a dynamic duo on stage, leaving the audience in stitches with their quick wit and chemistry. Oh, man. All right. One night they stood together. As their love flourished, Juan and Sherry decided to take a leap of faith. They opened a small comedy club together, the Buttered Biscuit Comedy Club, where they could showcase local talent and bring joy to their community. The club quickly became a hit, drawing crowds from all over with its unique blend of romance and laughter. One night, as they stood together on the club's stage, Sherry looked at Juan, her heart overflowing with love and pride. I can't believe we're doing this, our own comedy club. Juan wrapped his arms around her, beaming with joy. And it's all because of you, my laughter queen. Oh God, that you brought so much happiness into my life. They shared a kiss on stage, and the audience erupted into applause and cheers. Their love story had become the heartbeat of the comedy club, and patrons loved witnessing their playful banter and affectionate moments. Their romance also found its way into their acts. However, amidst the laughter and joy, life wasn't always a bed of roses. Like any couple, they faced their fair share of challenges, but they navigated them together with resilience and support. Their ability to find humor in even the most difficult situations helped them weather any storm. I didn't tell it to put it in there. One day, Juan surprised Sherry with a romantic getaway to Wales. Recreating their first vacation together, they swam in the same sparkling waters, hiked to the hidden waterfall, and even found the old shed where they discovered the unicycle. As they stood before the unicycle, Sherry chuckled. Remember how we escaped an avalanche on this thing? Who would have thought? Juan grinned, slipping his arms around her waist. It was a crazy adventure, just like our love story. They laughed together, reaffirming their love and commitment to each other. This time, there was no avalanche to run from, but their hearts were filled with the same exhilaration they felt that day. As the years passed, the Buttered Biscuit Comedy Club became renowned, attracting comedians and laughter enthusiasts from all around the world. Juan and Sherry's love for each other and their shared passion for comedy created a legacy that would continue to spread joy for generations to come. And so, the romantic comedy of Juan Martinez and Sherry Stevens continued to unfold, filled with laughter, love, and the unicycle that brought them together on an adventure they could have never imagined. They had found their happily ever after. The end. Well, there's your story time for tonight. Thank you so much to Alyssa Rose. What I had asked her to give me was the names of two people in the Jodi Arias trial: Juan Martinez and Sherry Stevens. Activity during the summer: swimming. Location: whales. Weather phenomenon: avalanche. Type of transportation: unicycle. And a funny exclamation: butter my butt and call me a biscuit. So, Alyssa, well done. Well done. That was good. And if you liked it, let me know, because I would like to make this once a stream, because I think we all need that levity, and I think it could be fun. So, for those of you who mentioned that Facebook Live is not working, I apologize. Yes, StreamYard was not connecting to Facebook Live tonight. It decided that no matter what I did and whatever I troubleshooted, it was not working. So my apologies. YouTube it is tonight, but I sure did give it a try.
Take a look at Exhibit 485. It says, Travis, you're beautiful on the inside and out, doesn't it?
Yes.
Isn't that kind of a lie based on what you've told us here in court today?
Not good enough.
Staying rephrased.
That's not true based on what you told us here in court, right?
Overruled.
I believed that he had inner beauty, yes. So it is true.
So you think somebody who masturbates to pictures of little boys is beautiful on the inside, right?
I don't think that aspect of him is beautiful at all. I think it's sickening.
Well, I'm asking you, you did write beautiful on the inside, and yet you knew, according to you, that he had this issue, right?
Yes.
And so if you write that, you've indicated that it was a problem for you, right?
It was.
And you indicated that you'd even obtain a pamphlet, correct, to give to him?
Yes, too.
And you also indicated that you believed that he needed help, right?
He did need help.
Right, and you've indicated that to us on direct examination a couple of times at least, right?
That's right.
But yet here you're right that he's beautiful on the inside, knowing all of that.
Yes, he hated those parts of himself.
Pardon?
He hated those parts of himself. It's not who he wanted to be.
Whether he wanted to be it or not, somebody who has those issues, you still think is beautiful on the inside, and that's why you wrote it.
I believed that he could get better.
I'm not asking you if you believe that he could get better, man. I'm asking you whether or not somebody is beautiful on the inside if they have the problem that you have told us about.
Objection, ask and answer this about the third time.
Overruled.
What was the question?
Mike, could you read it back for her, please?
Mike! Oh, I didn't do the writing. Chat GPT did the writing. I'm not that good.
I'm not asking if you believe if he could get better, ma'am. I'm asking you whether or not beautiful on the inside is I'm sorry. I'm asking you whether or not somebody as beautiful on the inside, if it had that problem you told us about.
I believed that he had aspects of himself that were beautiful and some that were ugly, just like I do.
So what you're saying is that statement here that he was beautiful on the inside is a qualified statement.
I don't know what you mean by qualified.
Well, it doesn't tell the whole truth. It just tells parts of the truth.
Of course,
I
this is a
didn't come
memorial
here to
book.
read.
Pardon?
Of course, this is a memorial book.
You didn't have to write it in that memorial book, right?
I didn't have to.
And you didn't have to go to the memorial service, right?
That's right.
one of the things that you told us was that, well, you and Mr. Alexander had an agreement, right?
Yes.
And this agreement, according to you, was that even if the memorial service or the funeral was in Antarctica, the two of you would attend each other's funeral, depending on who outlived the other, right?
He said it would come to mind even if it was in Antarctica.
Ma'am, I'm asking you whether or not you and he, or whether or not you told us previously that you and he had an agreement to attend each other's funeral depending on who died first.
And boom goes the dynamite.
It wasn't quite like that.
Well, didn't you tell us that on direct examination, that that was part of the reason that you went, because you guys had this understanding?
I didn't go to his funeral. I tried to go and I didn't make it.
The memorial service.
That wasn't part of the agreement.
Well, but you did mention that you believed that he would have done the same thing for you, right?
Yes.
But in terms of this attending the memorial service, if the situation were reversed, do you think that he still should have gone to your memorial service if he had killed you?
Objection. Argumentative calls for speculation.
Sustained. What was the agreement, or what was your understanding of the agreement then?
I told him one time that I admired his speaking skills, and that if I ever passed away, he would, I would like it if he gave a eulogy at my funeral, because I knew that he would edify me in a good way.
Yeah. If he passed away before you, what was the agreement?
It wasn't discussed, I don't think.
Oh, so you didn't have any understanding whatsoever with regard to whether or not you would attend his memorial service?
It was more about my funeral.
Well, do you remember telling us something different on direct examination?
I don't remember.
Do you remember on direct examination telling us that you felt compelled to go because of this agreement that the two of you had?
That's why I felt compelled to go.
Right. Because you believed there was an agreement, right?
Because he would have gone to mine.
And you believe that that was sort of an unwritten agreement between the two of you. That's how you portrayed it to us on direct examination, right?
The eulogy part was sort of an unwritten agreement.
I'm talking about just actually going. I'm not talking about the eulogy. Isn't it true that in direct examination, the way you portrayed it to us was that the reason that you went was because you and he had talked about it, and that you felt compelled to go based on those conversations?
Yes.
And those conversations included going to Antarctica, if that were the case, right?
He said he would.
And that's how much the commitment, that's how strong the commitment was to attend each other's memorial services, right?
I don't recall making a commitment to attend his services, but this is the reason I felt compelled to go.
Because of the conversation you had with him, right?
Yes.
No one knew about this conversation that you had with him, right?
No, it was in his office, just the two of us.
Right, so it was just you and him, right?
Yes.
And so if nobody knew about it, you really didn't have to go, and nobody would have been the wiser, right?
That's right.
But you made the choice to go, right?
Yes, I did.
You also write, you always told me that I never stopped believing in you, and I know that you always believed in me, right? That's what it says, right?
Yes.
You always believed in him, right?
Yes, I did.
And even though, according to you, he would get this mean look on his face and he would come charging after you down the hallway, you still believed in him, right?
And boom goes the dynamite.
Yes, that wasn't who he wanted to be.
I'm not asking you if that's what he wanted to be. Did I ask you that, ma'am?
No.
I'm asking you whether or not you still believed in him if he, for example, according to you, threw you down and choked you. You still believed in him, right?
I believed in his potential still, yes.
So the answer is yes, right?
Yes.
And even though he may have been on the couch kissing with some girl in August of 2007, you still believed in him, right?
Yes, I wasn't his girlfriend.
Pardon?
I wasn't his girlfriend. So yeah, of course, I still believed in him.
You were his girlfriend in August of 2007?
I was not. I wasn't.
So you still believed in him even though he was kissing on some girl And you still believed he was courting you at that time? You still believed in him?
Kissing on some
Well, it
girl.
cheapened his efforts.
I understand that it may have
I
cheapened.
still believed in his potential of who he wanted to become.
So it cheapened his efforts, right?
Certainly.
And if it cheapened his efforts, then perhaps he wasn't believing in you as much as you indicate in this card or this writing, correct?
Objection calls for speculations what Mr. Alexander believed.
It's the other way around.
Overruled.
I think we're talking about different aspects of what we believed about each other.
Well, you say that you never stopped believing in him, right?
Yes.
And you never stopped believing him, irrespective of what you told us the issues were, right?
That's right.
And these issues that, according to you, he wasn't getting any help for, right?
I don't know if he was or not. I
Well,
don't believe he was. He said he would. I don't believe he did.
right. So you know that he's not getting, according to you, your belief is that he's not getting help for any of these issues, right?
Yes.
He's not doing anything about it, right?
I don't know that.
Well, isn't that what your belief is? I'm asking about your belief. I'm not asking about what you know. I'm asking about your belief.
Objection. She says she did not.
Overruled.
I believe he was doing things, not seeking professional help, but he said he spent a lot of time in prayer about it and things like that.
So you believe he was praying about it then, right?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not you believed he went to a bishop to talk about it?
He did talk to a bishop about his.
Is that a yes or a no, ma'am?
Well, I really don't know.
Okay. Says, thank you for sharing so much and thank you for all your generosity. This world has been blessed because you have been here, right?
Yes.
So you believe somebody who does the sort of horrible act that you described is a blessing to the world?
He did bless the world in ways.
I'm asking you, my question's a little different. You believe that somebody that did whatever it is that you allege he did is a blessing to the world?
That is not a blessing to the world.
So this wasn't true then?
No, I just said that he did bless the world in ways.
Not wrong?
Ma'am, one of the other things that we know about you and him is that you and he had quite the relationship behind closed doors, right?
Yes.
And they're called private relationships for a reason, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that you complained about on direct examination was that, well, nobody knew what your business or what your affairs were. Do you remember complaining about that?
I don't remember the context, but I may have said something to that effect.
And it upset you that these interactions between you and him were behind closed doors.
No, are you talking about this?
So
what activities are you referring to?
Well, for example, you complained that when you went out, he didn't sort of treat you in the way that indicated that you perhaps were closer to him than you were.
And I feel like that
That's
needs to be celebrated.
He wouldn't hold your hand, right?
Usually not.
He wouldn't kiss you in public, according to you, right?
He did as long as we weren't on our own home turfs.
So, but in certain circumstances, he wouldn't kiss you when you were out there, right?
That's correct.
And all of this bothered you, didn't it?
It did bother me.
Yeah, and it bothered you because, on the other hand, he's very attentive when the doors are closed, but not when people are around, right?
Yes.
And you could have, though, put an end to that, couldn't you?
Yes.
You could have left, you could have gone to Wairika, correct?
Yes.
But you chose not to, right?
Not right away.
Well, you chose not to until April of 2008, right?
That's when I did it. I made the decision prior to that.
All right, you made the decision in March of 2008, right?
Actually, it was Christmas 2007.
Well, do you remember that we took a look at your journal in March of 2008, and that's when you told him that you were going to go to Wairika?
That's right.
And also, we know that you left in April of 2008, right?
Yes.
So you're free to go at any time that you want, right?
I was broke, so not really, but
What, you have parents, right?
yes,
They would have helped you if you wanted to go home, wouldn't they? You asked your mom for help to move, right?
yes,
And she came out there, right?
yes,
She came out here to Mesa, correct?
yes.
She flew, correct?
She flew into Phoenix.
And whatever happened, but she went on her way shortly after she came out here, right?
Yes,
And so there was at least an indication based on that, that they would help you in however, what your parents would help you in whatever way they could, right?
yes.
So it wasn't a situation that you were stranded, was it?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't know that they would help me until I was desperate enough to call her, and she would. She
Well,
said she would.
you indicated that you called and she responded, right?
Yes.
They wouldn't know that you needed their help unless you called, right?
Well, Matt called once, but unless I called and asked for that kind of help, I guess.
When, on your first occasion that you called your mother, isn't it true that she agreed to help, right?
Yes.
And in fact, the way the help was that she even came out here to try to help you load the truck, right?
I think I got the truck after she left, but her purpose was to come down here and help me load the truck and move.
You just didn't have the truck at the time, right?
Not yet.
And so it seems like when you say that, well, you protest and say, well, you know, I was sort of stuck here in Arizona. You weren't really stuck here in Arizona, were you?
I don't know. I mean, my parents have been financially capable at times and other times not. So at the time I called, they were able to help me. They were in a position to help me.
And so they did. The only time that you asked them, at least as it involves this case, the only time that you asked them, they were able to provide some help, right?
Yes.
And in fact, when you got to Wairika, you even had a place to stay, right?
Yes.
You didn't want to stay with your parents though, right?
There were no bedrooms there. That's right.
So you didn't want to stay with your parents, right?
No, I didn't.
You preferred to stay with your grandparents, correct?
Yes.
And so you had a place to go to, right?
Yes.
And in fact, you could get a job there if you wanted to, right?
I did get a job there.
Well, you could if you wanted to, right? In fact, you started to work at Casa Ramos, according to you, right?
Well, it depends on who hires. I mean, I searched and hunted, and I did not get a job for a while. And I finally was hired somewhere.
You did get a job at Casa Ramos, didn't you?
Yes.
And this was in Wairika, correct?
Yes.
And when you were working at Casa Ramos, you had your own money, right?
Yes.
Nobody took it away from you, right?
No.
And in fact, you weren't lending or giving any money to Mr. Alexander at that point, right?
I was paying back a debt that I owed him.
But that's not giving money to him, is it?
Yes, I was giving it willingly.
Well, if you have a debt, that's not and you give money for that, that's not a gift, is it?
It was not a gift. It was a repayment that I was giving him.
And in fact, the terms were pretty loose on that, correct?
Very loose.
And whatever you could afford, he basically would accept, right?
Yeah, he said to try to keep it to at least $100 a month, but pay more anytime you can pay more.
They were loose. It was a loose agreement, right?
Yes.
He wasn't putting any financial pressure on you, right?
Not at first.
When you say not at first, that implies that he was putting pressure on you at some point, right?
Yes, he did.
And it was an amount mentioned?
No.
And was there ever the threat of him going to court to get the money?
No.
And in fact, he actually even was trying to help you with the car, the one that had lost the transmission and had all those problems when you started to tow it, right?
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, he was trying to find out who was responsible for that on your behalf, wasn't he?
I think I was. I had called the law firm. He called a law firm. We were waiting for calls back on it.
What? But he attempted by calling a law firm, right?
I don't remember if he called his directly or, I mean, I know that I called attorneys on it. And I think he was doing his own research on it as well.
But he And when you told him that this had happened, he wasn't upset with you, was he?
No, he wasn't.
And in fact, when you told him that this happened, he tried to do the best that he could for you, right? Because
Yes.
you wrote that he felt bad for you, right?
Yes.
And in fact, the way he handled that situation, you actually in your journal called him your hero, right?
Yes.
So it appears that you're in Wairika, this individual, Mr. Alexander, is in the Mesa area, and there doesn't seem to be any other tie other than this sexual bond that the two of you seem to have, right?
Well, that in the car, I guess.
Well, but the car was a
That
loose bond, wouldn't you agree?
In the car.
You could mail the payment and not talk to him ever, right?
That's right.
And you could conceivably pay him off in one payment. Not that you probably would, but you could in one payment, and that would be the end of it, right?
The end of our communication.
No, the end of the issues involving the car, right?
Yes.
And you wouldn't have to communicate anymore if you really didn't want to, right?
After the car was paid and I had the title, no, we wouldn't have to.
Right. And so, but you did have this sexual bond, right?
Yes.
And it appeared that you wanted to be with him as much as he wanted to be with you.
That would be accurate.
And so that when we talk about, or when you tell us things like, well, when I was,
she was bad
over
at
at
it.
Sky
She was
and Chris
terrible.
Hughes's house, approximately a week after you met him, and you indicate that, well, that you had oral sex, and you said that you were uncomfortable with that. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Well, you were pretty attracted to him, weren't you?
My attraction didn't develop that quickly.
So are you saying that
I don't believe
you did that even though you didn't want to?
Yes.
And did you tell him that?
No.
Did you think that he was a mind reader and would know that you didn't want to do that?
No.
And one of the things that you said that was kind of striking about that was that when he was performing oral sex on you, that you said he sure knew what he was doing. Do you remember saying that on direct examination?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Well, doesn't it take one to know one?
Objection, Your Honor, argument is improper.
Sustained.
How do you know he was so good unless you had previously been exposed to that activity?
I was previously exposed to that activity in my prior relationships.
So there wasn't anything wrong with him being experienced in that area, was there?
Not in my opinion, no.
No. So when you said that he sure was experienced in that area, you didn't mean to be saying that was a negative thing, right?
No.
And the other thing that you said, well, really wasn't your cup of tea that time, right?
That's correct.
You could have stopped at any time and said, I don't want to see you anymore, right?
Yes.
Because that was really the first time you had ever seen him, right?
They whip.
No, that would have been our
No,
second.
I mean alone, in private.
Second.
You had had some sort of sexual contact with him before that?
No sexual contact. I'm talking alone private.
I'm talking about sexual contact.
Okay.
Based on what happened there and the sexual contact at that point, you said, well, I wasn't really that interested in him at that point, right? You just said that.
There was an interest, but the deep level of my attraction had not developed to its extent.
So you weren't that attracted to him, right? Would that be fair to say or no?
Well, when you say that attracted,
10 questions.
like I was attracted to him, but
For one,
it
and
felt
it's
like
not
it
on
was
him.
just too soon, is all.
Well, you said my attraction hadn't developed to that point yet, which appears to say that you weren't attracted to him to have sex with him on that occasion, right?
Not yet to that level.
So you keep saying that, yeah, I'm just talking about that particular point. I just want you to focus on that point. At that point, you were not sexually attracted to him, right?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, so you were sexually attracted to him.
On some level, I believe I was.
Involved.
And so
After
being
her.
sexually attracted to him, this was an activity that was enjoyable to you, right?
In 2 months. Thank you.
It otherwise could have been, but I just felt uncomfortable.
Well, you're saying you felt uncomfortable, and are you saying then that it was not an enjoyable situation for you?
Like internally, no. So therefore, physically, I wasn't able to enjoy myself. but there was nothing outwardly wrong with this scenario because, I mean, all the elements were there other than those things.
If you weren't enjoying it internally, and if you weren't enjoying it externally, it appears that what you're saying is that you're not enjoying it at all. Because there's only the internal and the external, right?
Yes.
Overall, to me, answer.
Yes.
So you weren't you were not enjoying it, then is what you're saying.
Once it progressed to the oral sex, I was no longer enjoying it.
You could have told him to stop though, right?
Yes.
But you didn't, right?
That's right.
You never showed any indication that this activity was unwelcome, right?
That's right.
There was no way for him to know that this activity was unwelcome, right?
That's right. In fact, I think I acted like
The
I liked
answer is
it.
yes, right?
That's right.
And so after that, and really what we have for that sort of assertion, all we have is your word, correct?
Yes.
We don't have, for example, any video or anything like that that would show us what happened then to see whether or not you were enjoying this particular activity, correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to the other time, the situation in the car, again, you indicated that you were uncomfortable with it, right?
Cheap base!
Somewhat, yes.
If you were uncomfortable the first time,
Times 5.
and you have
Thanks,
the
Sandy.
ability to say no, you could have stopped the second time, right?
Yes.
That was a choice that you made, correct?
Yes.
For whatever reason, you made the choice to be with them that second time, right?
Yes, I did.
And so when you talk about, well, I was uncomfortable about it, I felt bad about it, or whatever the terms are that you use, at some point, even though you felt that way, that was your responsibility to let the other party know that perhaps you weren't into it as much as they were, right?
What do you mean?
Well,
you mean if I didn't want to proceed with it?
Pardon?
Then it would have been my responsibility to tell him?
Right.
That's right.
You could have told him no, right?
I could have, yes.
And you've done that before in your lifetime, haven't you?
Yes.
And one of the things that you kept saying on direct examination was that, well, I felt that I liked him and didn't want to hurt his feelings or something like that. Do you remember saying something like that, that you didn't want to hurt his feelings?
Yes.
Saying no to you, the fact that you would have said no, you think would have hurt his feelings?
I felt that way, like it would have been a blow to his ego.
So you felt that it would have been a blow to his ego then if you would have told him no, right?
Yes.
Well, who cares about his ego?
Okay. I did.
That's enough.
You cared about his ego even though you had only known him for approximately 2 weeks?
Yes.
So does that mean that you were more invested in him than you're telling us? In other words, at that point, you really had strong feelings for him?
They weren't strong, but there was an attraction there.
So you were attracted to him then?
Yes.
And you wanted this sort of activity to continue, right?
What kind of activity?
Sexual activity.
Well, I didn't stop it.
Well, when you say you didn't stop it, it just sounds again like you're saying it was all him and not you, right?
No, it takes two to tango.
That's right, and it was a mutual activity, wasn't it?
Yes.
Let's see what you have to say about that. Move for the admission of exhibit 486.
Uh-oh. He's got a DVD.
Did you say 486?
Yes, sir.
486 is admitted.
Like if you're moving away and you're saying you want to end this unhealthy relationship, and yet A, you're still making plans to get together and travel, and B, you're still showing up for sex.
Yeah, it was hard to tell Travis no. He would call me at night and we would have long conversations, and he would tell me the things that he would like to see happen when he came up to visit me, to put it in a G-rated manner, and the things that he wanted to do as far as traveling and where we would go and what we would do. And then it wasn't like I wasn't the reason, the agenda for him coming up, but that was a big part of it. He was going to continue on to Washington, see friends there, and then come all the way back down and see the Pacific Coast Highway as well. It eventually became sex.
Was it mutual?
It was always mutual, yeah.
You did indicate there that it was always mutual, right?
That's correct.
So that means, for example, that when you and he were involved the very first time, that it was mutual, right?
Yes, it was.
And when you were involved anytime after that, it was also mutual, right?
I believe it was.
So when you tell us that that you felt like a used piece of toilet paper, well,
the way you make me
that you're sort of telling us that at that point that it wasn't mutual, that somebody was taking more than they were giving.
No, it was still mutual at that point.
Even though you felt that way, you can still say that it was a mutual kind of thing.
Yes,
right?
When I told him to stop, he did.
Pardon?
When I told him to stop, he did.
So anytime that you would ask him to stop, he would stop, right?
Except the one time in May 2007.
But in the statement that we just heard in Exhibit 486, you did indicate that it was always mutual, right?
Yes.
You never indicated that there was ever a problem, right?
That's right.
Ma'am, one of the things that we know is that there was this text message that you received while you were at the Grove. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And this was sometime in November of 2006, right?
That's right.
And this is what you told us that you were at some sort of meeting or something at a restaurant, right?
We were first at a Super Saturday, and then a group of friends and I, business associates, we all went to a restaurant.
What was the name of the restaurant?
I don't remember.
What was the name of the city?
Anaheim.
And you were in Anaheim, and you were at this restaurant. Who else was sitting there?
Intentional and rare. Cool.
Michelle was sitting across from me. I think Lenore was
Not like
there.
this.
Amber
Heard.
I was still kind of new, so I don't remember all the names, but I think my friend Jared was sitting to my left.
The Subway guy?
And
that didn't end well.
I mean, I can picture faces, but I don't remember their names. There was a whole long table of people.
And you received this text message, right?
Yes.
And at that time, you indicated to us that you had a flip-top phone, right?
That's right.
And basically, when you receive a text message, what would be required is for you to open the phone to take a look at it, right?
Yes.
And in addition, you would have to take an extra step, right?
Yes.
You would have to take a step to take a look at the text message, right?
Yes.
And you said that you were somewhat unawares of what was in that that you were unaware of what was in that text message, right?
Yes.
And that you went ahead and that you opened it, right?
Yes.
Did anybody see it?
Well, I don't know if Jared saw it. I don't think he did. I flipped it shut real quick and then looked around to make sure nobody was looking.
Because you were able to recognize what it was, right?
Yes.
And you found it offensive, right?
Not at all, actually.
So you thought it was okay then?
Yes.
And so when you were telling us about how it was that you received this, you didn't mean to tell us that you were offended by it, right?
No, I was not offended.
And in fact, it was something that you liked, right?
I did like it, yeah.
And it was something that he was showing you attention. And so looking at it was something that for whatever reason, at least indicated there was a relationship, a partial relationship there forming, right?
Yes.
And you never told him, don't ever send me anything like that, right?
No.
You never indicated to him afterwards, I'm embarrassed by that sort of activity, don't do that, right?
I did not say that.
And in fact, you were so happy, I would say, well, weren't you so happy with that activity that you actually took the time, the effort, and the trouble to download it?
I took the effort and the trouble to download all the photos on my phone at once.
Well, you knew that that was on your telephone, didn't you?
Yes.
That's not something that you forget, right?
No.
And in fact, there were other pictures that were involved at other times that were deleted, right?
On my phone?
Yes.
Yes.
And in this particular case, though, this actually went onto the hard drive that was damaged that we've heard about, right?
That's right.
And that hard drive was available for your enjoyment, right?
Until it broke, yes.
But you could access whatever photographs that you wanted, including the picture of Mr. Alexander's penis, right?
Yes.
And you also sent him pictures of yourself, right?
Yes.
And you sent him photographs of yourself topless, right?
Yes, I did.
Well, let's go through all the photos. And by that I mean let's go through the descriptions, Juan. Let's everything.
You were not offended by.
I'm being sarcastic.
You were not offended by the fact that you were sending him photographs. In other words, that wasn't a problem for you, right?
Not the types that I was sending. I don't think I showed my face in the photos.
But you did show your upper chest area, correct?
I believe there were photos, several of that nature.
And there were
three
three of them,
draw the
right?
line, Jodi?
I don't remember.
And did you also send them to his phone?
Yes.
And you used your telephone to take the pictures?
Yes.
And even doing that, you took the trouble to then download those also onto your computer, right?
I might have.
Well, you're familiar with these photographs that came from this computer, right?
No, we couldn't find the pictures that you're referring to.
But you didn't see anything wrong or anything untoward with you sending in pictures and him sending you pictures, right?
No, I didn't.
And in fact, it was almost like it was a learning process for both of you, right?
Sustained.
Well, you and he were experimenting, correct?
You mean with the camera phone?
Well, no, just sexually speaking.
The answer,
I don't know what you mean by experimenting, but we were sexual.
Okay. Well, let's talk about something that was on the May 10th, 2008 conversation that you had with him, okay?
Okay.
And while they're looking at that, ma'am, I'm going to show you exhibits numbers 425, 426, and 427.
$105.
Okay.
Do you recognize the person in those?
Yeah.
That's you, correct?
Yeah, this is me just prior to my surgery for breast
Right.
implants
Okay.
that Daryl took.
And your surgery was in May of 2006, right?
June 2006.
Okay. I move for the admission of exhibits number 425 to 427.
2,600 lines.
Relevant.
Ma'am, you indicated that you sent photographs to Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And these are part of the photographs that you sent to him, right?
Those were taken before I met him.
But you actually sent it to him, didn't you?
I don't believe I would send him those. He wanted to see them and I was too embarrassed to show him my pre-surgery breasts.
And so it's okay, you felt a lot better once you had
I
your
love my
surgery
faces.
then,
They
right?
had the best.
Not at first, but ultimately, yes.
But you did take these photographs, right?
Yes.
And you kept these photographs, right?
I guess I did. They're there.
Right. And the only purpose for these photographs is of a sexual nature, right?
No, they're medical photos.
I'm sorry, hold on. Can you answer the question? Your objection?
To the relevance, it has nothing to do with her relationship with Mr. Alexander.
Overruled. You may answer the question.
No, they were just before shots for my surgery, just for that purpose.
And Judge, I move for the addition of exhibit 487.
No objection.
487 is admitted.
The KY? I've heard of it, obviously, but I've never used it. I had never used it and I'd always heard of it until one day I just thought, because it's so cliched and people make fun of it and, but it's great stuff.
No, it's awesome. There's nothing else.
Did you get used to that smell?
No. I use freaking Vaseline.
Oh, does Vaseline work? It seems so thick.
Well, no, it works. She's got it.
Oh, you mean the lotion?
Yeah, no, I use the jelly.
Oh.
It works well, but it doesn't work as well as KY.
Yeah. And KY is for that, so it's like good for you. I don't mean like it's beneficial, but it's better. It's the best thing for you because it's designed specifically for that purpose. It's best for your skin. It's okay to go on the inside and that kind of thing.
Yeah, see, the other stuff is really nothing to like on the inside.
Like I used baby oil in the past, but it doesn't hurt, but it's not the best thing because it's mineral oil,
So it appears that
Glad we listened to
in terms
that.
of the,
Totally
at least
worth
in
it.
terms of the KY, you were the one that introduced Mr. Alexander to it, right?
Yes, that's right.
And it was used as part of these sexual encounters that the two of you had.
Yes.
And you introduced that into the relationship because it was enjoyable to you, right?
It made our activities more enjoyable.
So they were enjoyable to start with, and this just enhanced them, right?
Most were enjoyable to start with.
Pardon?
Most were the first time you did.
I'm just asking about the KY. You introduced the KY into the relationship to make it more sexually enjoyable, right?
Yes.
And in fact, before that, your experience had been with baby oil, right?
That's right.
And at least as to Bobby Juarez, that's what was involved. That's what you used.
I'm gonna bite my pillow.
Probably, I
That's
don't
what I'm
remember that
gonna
far
do.
back, but definitely with Matt.
So when we're talking about the level of experimentation, in this case,
They
it
put
looks
it
like
up.
the
We're gonna
both
listen
of
to it.
you were experimenting together sexually, right?
That's right.
So that when we hear things like, well, I felt like a prostitute, that's not exactly true, right? When you say that you felt like a prostitute, that's at odds with what you're telling us or what we're hearing here about the KY.
Well, you're talking about two different incidents, so yes, it would be at odds.
So your participation, if you will, in these activities was equal to his, right? Wasn't it?
Yes.
So any derogatory statement such as I felt like a prostitute isn't really what was going on, representative of what's going on, right?
It was, but it was my fault for feeling that way because I allowed it.
Well, I know that you allowed it and you felt that way, and you say that you felt like a prostitute, but when we hear, for example, this partial clip of this sexual conversation, it looks like you're the one that's moving it along as opposed to him.
Is that a question?
It is a question.
What's the question?
The question is, isn't it true that you were the one that was moving it along?
I'd say it was mutual.
Well, if it's mutual, then there is no, I guess, suggestion then, or any reason why you should feel like a prostitute if it's mutual then, right?
I didn't feel like a prostitute during, just afterward I did.
Well, this is suggestive of you being as much of a participant in these activities as he was, right?
Yes, and I was.
And so you
Lathered on
indicated on 2 occasions on direct examination that you felt like a prostitute, right?
I believe referencing Ehrenberg, yes.
And in Ehrenberg, you said that that's when you felt like one, correct?
Not when, after Ehrenberg, after thinking about it, and you didn't call me for 3 days, I thought, hotel room, all that, just kind of felt that way.
And then additionally, you also said that you felt like that after the baptism, right?
No, I think after that I said I felt like a used piece of toilet paper.
And you didn't convey that to him, did you?
No.
Did you also say that you felt like a prostitute when he came over to your house and engaged in oral sex on the porch? Is that the other time?
Kentucky jelly. Sits on the
If
porch.
I did say that, that would be accurate.
And so if you did feel like that, and remember you even referenced a piece of chocolate being thrown your way. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then you said, well, I felt kind of like a prostitute. Do you remember saying that now?
Yes.
So that was already when you were in Mesa, right? Living in Mesa, right?
That's right.
That's after you had broken up with him on June 29th of 2007, right?
Yes.
That's after you and he had sex many times, right?
Yes.
That's after you and he had already started using the KY, right?
Yes.
And so how is it that you can say, I felt like a prostitute, if you're the one that's sort of moving the relationship ahead?
Well, your question doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to you. And that's where we're going to stop. Oh, we're eventually going to get to the point where this crosses over and then redirect and then jury questions. So get ready. I can't wait. I really hope the juror questions are like, I don't know, just like, I hope they're sarcastic. There's no way I couldn't write serious juror questions at all. They would have to be sarcastic for me. Well, listen, y'all, this is what happens with night court, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And, these things go longer. I think the next 2 options that I'm going to give everybody to vote on for a trial, they're going to be a little shorter. Some things that aren't like mainstream, and then we'll kind of go from there. But and Angie, good on you for putting up that link tree. But that link tree, you can add that to your phone home screen, and it'll look like an app, and you can click on it, it'll go straight there. But also, I think that's where we're going to put up the vote link, so you can click on that and then vote on whichever of the 2 trials you want. Oh my gosh, every I feel like every time I stream in this shirt, somebody wonders what it says. And I always have to read it upside down. The earth is not flat. Vaccines work. We've been to the moon. Chemtrails aren't a thing. Climate change is real. Stand up for science. And I can't remember where I got it from. Probably one of those like third-party online websites that I'm lucky I even got a shirt after paying for it. Dusty, it's 3 days of jury questions. I go back to it every now and again because I actually did the breakdown. 1 second. Okay, 8 days direct, 5 days cross, 2 days redirect, 3 days jury questions. I have something else here, but I don't. There might be something right after the jury questions. But yeah, and then after we're hopping into like doctors and things like that, which should be fascinating to listen to. I'm sure she's gonna love them talking all about her, and by that I mean she's actually going to love it. She just does. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, so reminder, everybody, no night court on Friday. I will try and get that sidebar out on Friday just because you guys deserve something. I'll give my best shot And then maybe I'll post some funny mascot pictures on the YouTube channel. We'll see. Anyways, I am going to I'm gonna hang up. That's what I was about to say. I'm gonna hang up. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. But I really appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here so late. I want to say thanks to the mods. Holy cow, what a day. It was a long day. It was a long day, and I know I'm not ending as early as I thought I was going to, about 6 minutes, but go to bed. We have the best mods in the business. Michelle, good question. I still need to talk to Brandi to see what we're going to do, if we're going to do anything on Sunday. So we'll see. Did we hear the options? No, not yet. Not yet. I'm still trying to pick. I have a few, and I'm trying to just make sure that they have to kind of fit with night court, you know? So nothing too intensely crazy. I mean, we might eventually get there, but not yet. I like to develop the culture that we have here, which is wonderful. Oh, that's great. Man down. It's okay. It's safe. Anyways, so, I just want to keep building up this culture that we have going on, and then we can start hanging up. I read, Didi, I read your comment. But yeah, so, do a little bit more of the community build up, and then maybe do something a little more difficult. So, yeah, and if you have any suggestions, you're more than welcome to email them to me, or if you're on Discord, you can pop them into the Night Court channel, and I'll take a look at them for sure. Yeah, Lisa, good idea. Everybody send the mods love, because couldn't do this without them at all. And I will say that forever until you get tired of hearing it, and then I'll say it some more. Doggone it. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to come back to you guys on Monday with another edition of Night Court, another edition of Night Court Chat GPT Mad Libs. Yeah. So guess what? Court's adjourned. Thanks for showing up. Always take care of yourself and take care of your family and your friends. Don't forget to smile. Well, I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye, everybody.